Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm Alexis, and I'm joined by David Francisco, of course, here for the podcast that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more. David, please look up the number that this episode is, because I don't know what it is at all. So while I stall here. Anyway, what are we talking about today? Well, there's been a lot of news. There's been a lot of movies. The summer box office has begun. People are already watching movies. Everybody's obsessed with Backrooms, Obsession, horror lighting up the box office. Some big budgeted movies may not be doing as well. As far as what we're talking about today, we've got three reviews, as a matter of fact. We've got one of those blockbusters not doing very well, which is Masters of the Universe. We've got one review on one of those horror films that's doing very well, which is Backrooms. And then we also have, I would say, a treat, maybe even, to me, a national moment. Everybody over the weekend was either, losing their minds over the Knicks, winning the NBA for the first time in over 50 years, or if you're MAGA, you were like slobbering over the sweaty men on UFC in front of the White House. But for me, my event that was causing me to lose my mind was the fact that there was a new movie by my favorite director, Steven Spielberg, out. And of course, that movie came out and everybody lost their minds, in the sense that people are like slavishly adoring it or completely tearing it a new asshole, as if it's like one of the worst pieces of shit that ever came out. Anyway, everything old is new again, as far as we talk about the movies, right? That is going to be our show tonight on episode, what was it, David?
540.
540. There we go. I always forget what number we're on. When you reach over, what did Yoda say to Luke? When you reach 900 years old, not as good you will look. And at this point, it's the equivalent of that, where I can't recall what episode we're in. And if I try, I'll always put a 2 or a 3 in front of it, even though we're much older than that. I don't know what that tells you, but that's kind of where we are. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and begin tonight with just a couple of things I want to really set the stage for. We're going to obviously talk about the moment that is movies right now, and as far as our reviews, that's going to come up for sure. But a couple of things I want you to do some housekeeping on. If you are not aware, which you should be on our regular podcast, you should know that we're doing a recap of the entirety of Spielberg's filmography. We just went all the way up to AI, where we literally just cracked the 21st century with this filmography. We got so many more movies to go, so please stay tuned for all those. We're having such wonderful conversations. Of course, we're keeping up with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We just started the LMD arc. Some would even say the best arc of the entire series, just now on our recap. So stay tuned for that as well. And also, if you've not had the chance to listen to our High School Musical reactions, some say they're the single best reactions on the internet when it comes to High School Musical. And there may be a few more reactions coming your way as well. Okay, now, keeping up the calendar for what we're going to be seeing next, and if and when we're going to be talking about these films. We're filming this on June 18th, 2026. This is the week that Toy Story 5 opens. We're literally at a point where, and I've been discussing this off screen with Peter. Peter, of course, has been very busy. We've been watching these films with him, but he can't be here. But we've been talking about this, and it's an interesting setup, because I feel like this summer box office has a lot more interest going into it, a lot more, I think, films you can kind of engage with and have I know, by the way, a lot of these are built to have a huge audience, but here's an interesting curiosity in this calendar. So keep in mind that where we are so far, I feel like May has already kind of created a lot of surprises. I don't feel anybody expected the domination of these two horror films, Obsession and Backrooms, kind of tag teaming each other in a way against the new Star Wars film that no one even knows to this day that even exists. It's hilarious to me how I feel like every time that movie gets brought up in conversation, oh yeah, that's out there. That's a thing. Which, I mean, if you've been watching our show, we've been telling you this was an inevitability for so many reasons. I feel like on this channel, we've long documented the decline of particularly the Mandoverse. We've had the displeasure of talking about that for 5 years now. We had the even grosser injustice of watching Filoni really ruin his own character in her own TV show, which is unbelievable. Well, not even that. I mean, he ruined other characters too, so I mean, to give him his credit, right? But for whatever reason, the Filoniverse still works for us, at least animation, right? Animation fares a lot better, whether it be Bad Batch or even Maul Shadow Lord. But the point is, this is a long beleaguered Mandoverse now. Season 3 was 2 years ago, I want to say, give or take, and that was very poorly received. Mm-hmm. And also, if you watch that storyline, what more show is there to even go? It seemingly closed everything off.
Yep.
So, and you can even sense the panic in Disney and how they were trying to repackage the trailers, trying to make events out of it. The reality is, it took too long for them to realize that Filoni and Favreau have nothing but a treasure chest of toys to play with and have nothing to say. There's no substance. There never was any substance in any of these episodes in the Mandoverse. Which to me, in a way, you can say it's a separate issue that Disney has with Star Wars, or maybe even a grander example of the overall, if you want to fold it into it. But the problem is, there had not been a Star Wars movie in many, many years, but also that doesn't really matter. A Star Wars movie should always draw people. And the idea that they chose this as the first movie back, really to me there should be a lot of executives, in my personal view, that should be fired for one, greenlighting this in the first place, putting it in theaters, choosing this to be the grand return to Star Wars in theaters. And by the way, good job, Disney, putting Dave Filoni in charge of all things Star Wars. He just delivered you your first big flop. I mean, it's sad. It really is.
Yeah.
Because once upon a time, I was a big Filoni guy. I mean, this would be a dream come true if this was like me from 10 years ago. But I feel like that man has so allowed himself to be indulged so much by Jon Favreau and not been challenged enough by anybody in that system. And now he's the top of it. And it's just like, it's always funny to me how Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger always fuck off and go off into retire land when big disasters are coming their way. Remember how Bob Iger retired the first time because COVID happened? Oh, by the way, I'm retired now. Funny. And then he comes back after 2 years, and then he leaves just as Josh D'Amaro comes in and like fires more people, says AI is the future. Great. Kathleen Kennedy too just chose to leave right before this movie opened, and for good reason. Because now, I mean, you can't really blame her anymore, can you? So, because she's not there, she's gone. So, I don't know where Star Wars goes from here, but I mean, this is how bad it was in its second week. The new Star Wars movie. By the way, it opened quite low. But I think it took a 70% tumble in its second week, and it came in third place behind two films no one a few weeks before had even heard of. Obsession and Backrooms. I mean, what more do you need to know about that?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. Like, I was thinking, well, you said, I was thinking that it was, this whole thing is just sad. Like, and not just because, like, it should have been an event, like a Star Wars movie to come out in theaters and all that. It's just the insane decline this whole company has gone into. Like, even when they opened, what was it, Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland?
Yeah.
Like, it was big when it was opening. Yeah, like,
sure,
that's for
it was
sure,
always going to be big.
Yeah, but
no
then,
matter
like,
what.
Nothing out of it though is like super exciting anymore. Like, they just announced, I think they put in Luke Skywalker in the parks now, and it's just like, cool. Nobody cares at this point. Sorry. Should have been from the beginning. But whatever. And then just, I mean, it's just kind of, I know for sure we were like, when, what was this? Like, after the trilogy ended, we were kind of like, you know, Filoni should like take some charge of, of like some of the stuff. Or at least,
what did he give us immediately after? Look, when Rise of Skywalker came out, Mando Season 1 came out. Now, Mando Season 1, by far and away, is the best season of the show. Because it looked great. You had Greg Fraser, who was doing the cinematography. It wasn't bad. I never vibe with it personally, but it wasn't bad. How 2 and 3 were very bad seasons. And then Book of Boba Fett was a bad season. Ahsoka was a bad season. But then, not even a full year later after Episode 9, what happens on Disney Plus? The Siege of Mandalore. And it's like, oh shit, what an amazing finale this was. So it's like, at that point, I don't believe it crystallized completely just how far the decline was going to be. But it's insane how, like, even, and by the way, at that point, in 2019, 2020, at that point, it was already an unbelievable decline. Because how it is that you begin with The Force Awakens and you end with The Rise of Skywalker, that in and of itself was a massive tumble. It feels like we're even far down the totem pole than we were even then.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. Yeah, we got the Siege of Mandalore, and Mando season 1 was fine. Really.
Yes, it was aggressively fine.
Yeah. And, we were kind of thinking, like, okay, maybe he can figure something out. Like, basically thinking, like, just do what James Gunn is doing, or even what Snyder was doing with the DCU and all that at that time. But as it just kept going and going, we're kind of like, oh, you don't have the same people around you. You're just not. And I can't say for sure that, like, some people want to say he was always like a bad writer and all that. I thought, it was okay. Like always just okay. I enjoyed the Clone Wars story and all that. It's just that I don't know whether it was just because he just got bad, or it was because he just really wanted to prolong like the toys that he had into something big and all that. It's like, I don't know what the fuck happened. It's just sad to see how like it was none of it is working out. So
it's sad to say, but I mean, I think it's becoming clearer and clearer that maybe he was a great writer in animation, but that does not mean you're a great writer in live action.
Yeah.
And certainly does not mean that you'd be a great director either, which is a whole other stretch at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's like, to me, it was always a bit of a reach for him to be able to excel in live action, just because, like, well, all you've done in his animations, like, what evidence is there to suggest that you'd be just as good as live action? And then when you have somebody like Jon Favreau as your mentor in live action, like, that was just not going to happen. And then, of course, even in animation, he does struggle with certain things, like the whole thing with Ahsoka and refusing to let her die, and that's not even the only character that he refuses to let die. It's just like, okay. I just feel like, and I think we're going to carry this over in this business. There are people who are able to excel when they have the right collaborator, but on their own can sometimes, unless they're actually talented, can be a very different story. I feel Filoni was at his best when he was with George Lucas. For whatever reason, those two together were kind of like speaking each other's language, and they were able to like bring two things to the table that actually made the thing work in the first place. But as we can tell, and we love George Lucas, but we saw his product in the prequels, and they're quite poor films. I mean, talk about poor writing. I mean, that's disastrous writing, not just from a screenplay standpoint, but a dialogue standpoint, and then from a filming standpoint. They're horrendous movies. Hey, we have nostalgia toward them, and I appreciate them, and I'll watch them, but they're quite poor films. And that's putting it nicely. The idea that in animation, his ideas came across more coherent is because he played the role of the ideas guy where he's best suited, and Filoni was taking those ideas and running with them. And I think it suggested to me that Filoni perhaps is not the person to be the ideas guy.
Yeah.
And so that also kind of creates a bit of an imbalance. And we see this, I think, we see the same thing play out throughout not just Star Wars, but in all kinds of filmmaking. I think we may even bring this up today when we talk about the Spielberg film and David Koepp, because they've made a couple of films together. But when you look at David Koepp's work outside of Spielberg and well-known directors, it's quite dire. But also, we've said about this in how, extremely lucky Marvel Studios got, right? Which was that not only was it the Russos, but Marcus and McFeely, the writers, and Kevin Feige. It was all of them together that were able to pull off Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame. And they've been coasting off of those films for years. But it was that team that pulled it off. And when you take one element or even more elements out of that collaboration, the whole thing fell apart. Case in point, Russo brothers went off on their own, and they proved they couldn't do anything on their own because every film that they made was a huge, colossal disaster and a bomb. Meanwhile, Kevin Feige doing Marvel Studios by himself well, does that even need to be said? Even
Yeah.
more how much of a fail that was. And so they're trying to recapture the magic with Doomsday. They even brought back the same cast, RDJ and Chris Evans. And you know what? We will see how that turns out. I personally expect it to be a huge mess.
Yep.
I'm hoping that in that mess, there might be some entertainment value in there because, you know, that's how bad Marvel movies have been lately, where even entertainment value is just not even present. Thunderbolts was like the only exception in so many movies and projects that came out that era where I'm like, do they just not know how to make a movie anymore? I'm bored by this.
Mm-hmm.
So they're gonna see if they can recapture that magic with Doomsday. But they very clearly showed they couldn't do anything on their own. So that's why with Star Wars, it is really dire and sad. I don't know. I don't think Dave Filoni has what it takes. And whatever they do next. I mean, that's a whole podcast, and I'm not here to do that podcast. But the whole point of this, me bringing it up, was that a Star Wars movie came out and no one gave a fuck, and it is bombing, and that should cause. I'm sorry, that's cause for firings at movie studios. It's funny how every other week we have like these stories of like, oh, this company just laid off half of its workforce because they're going to replace it with a computer, AI. Hey, dipshit, how about we fire the people who are actually bad at their jobs, like you? You know, that just for a start, if you want to start firing people, especially because apparently those executives take a lot of piece of the pie themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want to save money. That's kind of where logically you should go, not just, you know, cutting off your workforce completely. But that's kind of the whole thing. And then also on the duality of that, you have the rise, and the media is making a big story out of this, of the rise of Gen Z, the rise of Gen Z filmmakers. And, you know, I think it's been long. This is a moment to comment on, because I think this is the final nail in the coffin that boomers, like with everything else in society, have proven themselves to be the cause of all the problems. And they couldn't give a fuck if it was like proven to them that they actually caused this. But what I mean is, after COVID, they didn't come back to the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a movie or two in every 5 years, but they largely have stayed home. After COVID, they just in masses have not returned to the movie theaters. Who has come back is Gen Z.
Yeah.
And who wants more movies is Gen Z. Now, I have quibbles and issues with the kinds of entertainment that Gen Z likes. Like, and I don't mean to, you know, stroke with a broad brush here, but like I think of Super Mario Brothers. I think of like Minecraft, and I'm like, oh God, not that, please, not that. That's not what I don't want that. Because honestly, if people want to claim that as the future of movies, that's not the future of that's what movies are now. That's still an IP that they recognize, and that's still a big budgeted thing. That's not what I would want. But nevertheless, the reason it seems that movie theaters are even alive is because Gen Z cares about them, and that should make us happy, at least, because we can work with that. And when you have that goodwill, then you have these two films that were led by these Gen Z directors, and they have been making gangbusters, and they've been capturing the moment, and people have been making them look, and not just interested in the genre of horror, which, by the way, what a roaring back success horror is. I mean, if there's one thing that will never go away, it's that. But it's making people actually interested in these two new filmmakers, and seeing where their where their careers go. And some people are wondering if we're witnessing the birth of two new Spielbergs here, not in the same.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the same filmmaker, not like in the same vein, but just as far as like a new boy wonder that is going to have a long career. That boy wonder, by the way, is now 79 years old, and he also has a new movie out. And moving on to that, it's done very well. It's done a lot more than what I feel the last two films he did, because they did nothing. It opened to 44 million domestically, and 96 million worldwide. It already crossed, I want to say, 100 million worldwide. It has a budget of 115. Really low budget considering. Maybe not low, but I mean, I guess for the movie that some people thought it would be. Let's just say it is not an extravagant amount of money. So we'll see what that does. However, I've been keeping an eye on how it's been holding in the weekdays, and it's doing quite well. So I don't know if the controversy added to the curiosity, or maybe the curiosity was already there, but the exception I told you about is Gen Z did not show up to that movie, but it's still doing well. And somehow the marketing worked. Spielberg was able to activate his boomer base, and they came out for this movie because a lot of the demographics show that the audiences for Disclosure Day have been considerably older, at least like 30 and up. So that's a little bit of a divide, I guess, we're seeing, but there is some evidence that Spielberg still has a base out there, but that boomer base didn't turn out for Fabelmans or West Side Story, where they did come out with The Post and Bridge of Spies and Lincoln and Warhorse. So the marketing was a success in that regard, but as when we talk about the movie, we'll also discuss how maybe that may have been a bit of a misdirect. And David, I guess we're gonna have to. Oh, sorry, that's all right. I wasn't okay. I was like, wait, is that a pizza? My mind just went blank. Oh my god. Okay, great. Okay. So David, we're gonna have to just wait and see how good Disclosure Day holds throughout the weekend and the next couple of weeks. But for what reason or the other, people have been made aware and they're watching this movie. So that I personally would consider a success, and I would think Spielberg would be breathing a sigh of relief because I do think it was. I mean, I was expecting this film to be doing quite poorly, and maybe it still will, depending. We'll see how the weeks go by. But anywho, needless to say, it's kind of a wait and see with this movie. Anyway, This week we have Toy Story 5. Which that in and of itself opens up its own can of worms of emotional feelings for us, and I think people. Generally, though, as was very easily predicted, because we here at Red Spotlight are quite, I feel, realist. You can even say like pessimistic or cynical about, Pixar and Disney animation films as far as like how they're being received by the public. I mean, I do think that there are great movies that both Pixar and Disney continue to make, but all the ones that I think are great generally get dismissed, and the ones that are like praised for whatever reason, we kind of like. Hoppers got praised. I didn't vibe with that at all.
Yeah.
Zootopia 2 got praised. I aggressively did not like that movie. Inside Out 2 got praised. Didn't like it at all. I believe you guys watched Moana 2 and that got praised. And I'm like, at this point, it just, the whole thing just comes across as like a put up job. Like it's hard for me to believe any of this until I actually see it for myself. And we will see it for ourselves. We are going to watch the film. We'll see. Although it did debut with 95% Rotten Tomatoes, a lot. Again, adoring reactions. I've seen a lot of people say better than 4. Some even say better than 3, or rivaling 3. Some even say better than the original movie. And I'm like, hold your horses here, guy. Are you sure you want to go this hard at it? I don't know about all this, to tell you the truth. I feel conflicted. Look, I feel like this is the easy thing I can say. Do we prefer there to be an amazing Toy Story 5?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, of course. Do we think that's likely that it rivals the best of Toy Story? I have a hard time believing that's a real thing. Maybe. I think undoubtedly, like even with 4, right? Because I'm part of the 4 fan club, but there are people who will come at this movie and are going to be like, this is a special one for me, and here's how I'll defend it. That's fine. But when we're already getting into the rankings and like saying, oh, it's automatically top tier, automatically top 3, and I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I find that very suspect. I have to see it for myself. I got to see it to believe it. That's even true. I just can't see it. David.
I like the concept of this movie. It's just the execution of it that I'm very skeptical about. But that sounded weird. About anyway. Like I like the idea that they have to deal with technology because it's very similar to the first story, basically. You know, Woody having to deal with how Buzz Lightyear is like the new tech
Sure.
version of himself and all that.
Updated to the times that we're in.
Yeah, and so that storyline is sounds interesting. I just don't know how it's gonna be resolved. Like, are they gonna somehow convince
Yeah.
Bonnie to
Well,
stay away
Peter
from?
says Peter took a peek at the story that's already been out there, and he says it's resolved in a very Disney fashion. So that may
Mm,
that might mean good, that might mean bad. We'll see how that goes. I do think though, it's not been universal. I've seen some tepid reaction to it, and that's I think mixed with calls for the fact that Woody probably had no business being in this movie.
oh yeah, for sure. I thought it was probably for the best that he didn't come back in this. I would have liked it. I would preferred it if it was just a full on Jesse movie. Because I don't know. I like
Maybe a
that.
cameo in the post-credit scene, like just like, hey, Woody catching up and everything. But like,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like even one critic I saw that I shared clips with, it's like it's just distracting how Woody, who was the main character up until now, is made into a secondary character. And it would have been better served if he was just not in the film. That's what I'm
Yeah.
hearing. We haven't seen the film. And then something that I've noticed too is that apparently it does the same thing that Toy Story 4 did, which got a lot of hate. I remember Toy Story 4 got a lot of hate because it focused so much less on the other toys and only on Woody. Well, apparently it does the same thing here.
Mm,
So I'm wondering,
yeah.
are those same bitches gonna be saying the same thing about this one? I suspect not.
Yeah.
But
I'm
that's
also
how it is.
worried about Buzz because I really did not like the way they handled him in, in the fourth movie.
Well, I don't know how you're gonna think about this one because I mean, we saw they've told us what some of their ideas were, and they didn't sound very great
Yeah.
to tell you the truth. So
Mhm.
I can't tell you what's
And I understand it's
maybe it'll be better than the whole inner voice thing.
Mhm.
If you have an issue with that, sure, I'm not gonna dissuade you from it. To me, I liked the movie overwhelmingly that I didn't really care ultimately. But if you're gonna have that as a gripe, okay, fine. Of all the gripes people have about 4, that one I can totally get. But what is he gonna do in this film? Is
Yeah.
my question, right? Like, oh, and there's an army of Buzz Lightyears. Oh, so just comic relief,
Mhm.
right? It's just gonna be comic relief. I want to say. I
Again,
don't
yeah.
believe. Yeah.
I mean, he's always
so,
been like that, especially in the third one with the whole
Yeah.
Spanish thing and all
Mhm.
that. So like that's
Yeah, Spanish
normal.
Buzz. So
Mhm.
it's normal, but that's the thing though. It worked in 3 because, well, at that point, that was the finale. If you keep making more of these, what are you going to do that's different? You know.
Mhm. No, yeah.
So
I understand with him it's a struggle of like what the heck are they supposed to do with him? It's just wish it was better. I hope it's better than the what is it, inner voice thing and all that. And
yeah,
yeah, they should have just kept Woody out of it. I like the way they ended it in the fourth one. Um and I really much prefer it if Jessie was the main character in this, especially because,
she
it's
is.
Bonnie.
Every review is basically saying that it is like Jessie, and it makes sense because I mean the star, the badge was handed off to her, so it makes all the
Mhm.
sense that it would be her.
And not only that, because
Um,
but like it's Bonnie now. Like she's the kid
Yes.
taking care of them. Of course, she's gonna be more attached to the girl doll, the girl toy.
Yeah.
So that makes
So I
sense.
guess the real question is, David, is like, where are all the reviews saying that Toy Story went woke because they went to a female lead now?
Yeah, yeah.
I wonder
I
where
feel
that's going to
like
be.
honestly for this movie specifically, I don't think they're gonna care much, just because like
Oh, because it
it's-
made money and it would go against their narrative?
no, because it's just like they don't. For a lot of them, they didn't like Toy Story 4. Not because it was woke
Right.
or anything like that. It was just they just disliked it, and they're probably just not gonna care
Right.
about this one. And,
But now they have a convenient angle to come at it from.
Mhm.
But I
Mm.
guess they won't do that because it'll actually make all the money in the world. So that's kind of the thing that they don't do.
True.
Anyway, we'll watch it. We'll see. So that's this week, Toy Story 5. I still have to watch Obsession, so I'm not watching it. I got to watch Obsession first, and then we'll watch 5 the following week, which the following week also has a brand new opening. And I'm quite curious to see what this movie actually does as far as like a film, but also if people are going to be interested, because I'm getting quite nervous about this one. Supergirl.
Mhm.
I feel the scale of this film is probably not best for a June release. I'm going to call it right now. I feel like, and this is what I mean by that. I mean that I expect it to be kind of like I don't believe the film, even at its best, is going to be on the same level as Superman. Number one, I'm not feeling the high level of interest for this movie in the same way as people did for Superman, which I think that's just to be expected. But I also think this movie would have a lot more room to breathe if they put this in August. And I'm going to give away the ending. There's literally nothing in August opening that is of a big temple or like any a big name movie.
Okay.
Nothing. So I feel like they kind of missed an opportunity there, because if you remember, we had 2 big comic book films that did very well in August in the last 10 years. The first Guardians film opened in August 2014, and then the first Suicide Squad did even better box office wise, in August of 2016, 10 years ago. So I feel like August is like, there's an untapped minefield of potential in August that studios keep ignoring, which is unfortunate because, August is like a slow month for me. Maybe the slowest month of the whole year. I would love if they would put a movie like Supergirl in August, because to me, my concern is that it might get lost in the shuffle, because you already have a lot of audiences still watching horror. You have an adult drama sci-fi with Disclosure Day. You've got the animation front with Toy Story. Toy Story is going to make amazing business all month long. And then this is what happens. The week after Supergirl, you have Minions. Forget about it. Forget about that. And then after Minions, the week after, you see how it's all happening back to back to back, the Moana live action remake, which may not do as well as what you would think, but it's Moana. It's Disney. It's a live action bullshit, like Diarrhea Fest. People are going to come in and slobber it all up. So my concern is, with Supergirl opening in the middle of all of this, it could get lost.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And that's why they should have just, and it doesn't even end with Moana, because the week after Moana is the Odyssey. And then the week after the Odyssey, I think there's a week break, but then the week after that is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is an insane calendar that we're dealing with. I don't believe we've had a summer this stacked in like many, many years. In the way that individually, a Minions movie, a Toy Story film, a bullshit Disney AI remake, and a Spider-Man movie. That's like 4 films that they stand on paper a decent shot at making $1 billion a piece. Like, we haven't had a summer like this since, I believe, 2019. So what is poor little Supergirl going to do in the midst of all of being sandwiched in between all of this? That's the concern that I'm feeling right now, because when you mix that with and that, by the way, I'm not saying it's going to bomb. I'm not saying it's going to do poorly, but
it could do better.
What I am saying, it could do better, but I also am saying that I would be nervous about its longevity, especially because I'm not even sure what those reviews will look like, because this is not James Gunn directing it. It's somebody else. I don't even know who it is. Do you know who it is that's directing this movie? I know he is heavily involved, so there's that. But we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if I'm worried about it being a bad movie. I think it'll be a pretty good movie. I trust Gunn. I trust him, like, helming. I think like he's heavily involved in these films, so I think he's gonna try and make the best movie he can possible. Who knows? Maybe it'll be amazing. Wouldn't that be great if it was?
No. Yeah.
But we're definitely gonna keep an eye on those. So we're not gonna watch Toy Story this week, but the next week we'll watch Toy Story and Supergirl. I'm just going to let you know right now, I don't think anybody on this channel is going to give 2 shits about a Minions movie or a Moana movie. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. We'll talk about, I guess, the money it makes, but, like, I'm not watching those. I'll keep an eye on the reviews for Moana, because I'm sure it'll be quite bad. I'm sure there'll be, like, the initial, oh my God, I love Moana, I got paid to be here reactions. And then, like, when the real reviews come in, it'll be like what the fuck is this turd? So that'll be fun to read those reviews. But, like, ultimately, from this point going forward, to me, and I think to cinephiles, the real event of the summer is with Christopher Nolan, right? Like that's the big one with the Odyssey, and we're gonna figure it out for ourselves um, when that actually happens, which we're getting pretty close to. We'll see. Generally, that's I know this took a half hour already over that, but just to set the stage of where we are with the summer, David, any ideas or what are your expectations for any of these movies, or just like what you're most looking forward to?
Well, I don't keep track of like when the movies come out. I just sort of go, what's coming out this weekend, and then I see what's there. But definitely a bit worried with Supergirl, what you were mentioning before. Like everything else coming out. So, because I was really hoping it would do like pretty well in the box office. I don't know if it was gonna be like I don't, like I wasn't thinking like $1 billion success or anything like that, but I was hoping it would just make its money back and all that. So hopefully it just reaches that, and then for the rest of the movies, I'm only just excited of Odyssey and Spider-Man, because I did enjoy actually that other trailer that came out, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, this looks better, so at least there's that. And then Odyssey, it's more so just curiosity what the heck Nolan's gonna do with this movie. So
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, with all that being said, we can go ahead and get into the films that we're talking about tonight, which are going to include, as I mentioned before, 3 of them. And I think we can start off with Masters of the Universe, because this is an interesting one. You, David, I didn't watch this. You watched this movie. But this was... I'm curious, is this at all related to whatever Kevin Smith was doing?
No.
Not at all, right?
Completely different.
When did that animation come out? Do you recall?
Oh, it's been a couple of years now, and it only lasted for 2 seasons. And if I remember talking about it, there was some controversy.
Yeah, a lot of controversy
about it. And I mean, just to kind of be brief about it, basically, it was coming out that Tila, who's basically like He-Man's girlfriend, was going to be like the main character of the show and all that. And Kevin Smith, like, he was very adamant, like, no, He-Man is, or Adam, is the main character and all that. Like, he just kept bringing that up and over again. And it was, how they do those, like, they release it in parts, but like say it's a full season and all that bullshit. When the first part came out, I was like, yeah, technically it's about He-Man, but like and spoilers for the show, but like it's been a couple of years now, and so either you cared about it or you didn't. He-Man dies in the beginning of his show, and technically, like the episodes after that, it's all about the effect of it, and so technically it was about He-Man. But then you get to the second part, and it's like Tila is the one that gets a full character arc, and it's like, okay, no, you lied. this is about Tila, which is totally fine. Like in my case, like it's totally fine, because I always saw the Masters of the Universe toys as like a ensemble piece. Like He-Man wasn't. Yes, He-Man is the main hero, the main character, and all that, but like everyone loves all the other characters. That's what it is, and so it's perfectly fine, especially because Kevin Smith's show is supposed to be the sequel to the very original Masters of the Universe show and all that. So it's like, I thought it was perfectly fine, but people threw a bitch fit about it and over exaggerating certain things about the show, and so it just never really and for me, I thought the show was fine. Like it had a really great animation. Bear McCreary did the music for the show. I mean, it's already fantastic, and I was having fun with it. It just never got picked off after that. But I think that's just because it's the Masters of the Universe line. Like, it's not that popular. Like, it really is just the people who watched it as a kid.
Right.
Some people who saw like the 2000s version of it do like Masters of the Universe, but I wouldn't bet that they would call themselves like huge fans of that brand. And so didn't really go off. And then now we have this live action, which is not doing so well, because I have problems with it. More problems than I did with Kevin Smith's show. And honestly, there was things about that I much preferred over this movie. But overall,
but it just seems like it's too old of an IP.
Yeah,
happen to be doing, as well as I think some studios. Again, this is probably a film that shouldn't have been greenlit, and some executives should be fired for that. This is just how it is. Anyway, Masters of the Universe. This comes to us by Letterboxd, directed by Travis Knight, who previously directed Kubo and the Two Strings for Leica Animation, and also directed Bumblebee, the Transformers film from 2018. If you can believe how old that movie is. I mean, that's basically an 8-year-old movie. Incredible. This stars Nicholas Gladysine, Camila Mendes, Idris Elba, Jared Leto.
I mean, I'll say this now.
Alison Brie, Johannes Hakour, Okay, here's the thing. And this might be the one that like sums it all up. I did see a tweet about this that says that every movie that Jared Leto is in bombs. Literally every movie Jared Leto is in bombs. Why are people hired? Every executive that still continues to give them a job, they should be fired before anybody else that does real work. I'm sorry. What are we doing here? Although this is some of the popular reviews from the users. Heartbreaking. The worst person you know, Jared Leto, is really good in this movie.
Yeah, sadly, so, I mean, he's the best thing about it.
Oh, that's oh god, what a paradox. Here's another couple of reactions from viewers. When Skeletor started talking about the big long sword dangling between He-Man's glorious thighs, Jesus wept. And then another one, Happy Pride Month to Skeletor. Great user reactions. Here's a synopsis. Witness how he became He-Man. After being separated for 15 years, the Sword of Power leads Prince Adam back to Eternia, where he discovers his home shattered under the fiendish rule of Skeletor. To save his family and his world, Adam must join forces with his closest allies, Teela and Duncan, man-at-arms, and embrace his true destiny as He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Here are some reactions. Mike Ryan. I think Sashir Zamata is somehow even funnier the second time around. Griffin Newman. I had some fun. Daniel Howitt builds out a surprisingly thorough universe, over the top and cartoonish in the best way. It embraces the fantasy and delivers some solid action with big scope. Okay, here is another one. Embraces the 80s silliness of the source cartoon to mix results. Silly and fun. Here's one. Silent Dawn takes the Gen X nostalgia of a fantastical toy sets and Saturday morning cartoons and attempts to play it off as corny nerd energy with a relentless stream of self-aware quips. 141 minutes long, I guess. Let's see here. David Ehrlich, unlike the other nerd shit that has blessed and plagued our screens for the last 20 years, Travis Knight's semi-charmingly derivative film stands out because it's based on a toy that was created as self-fantasy rather than the other way around. Desperate to catch up with the rest of the industry after missing out on Star Wars, Mattel conceived of He-Man as a chance to... Okay, this is too long. I'm not going to read this. This is like... I mean,
just to summarize what you were just explaining, basically Mattel wanted to make some sort of brand of like Star Wars and all that, and that's how He-Man came to be. So...
Okay. Yeah, this seemed to get a pretty muted reaction. I don't see literally anybody like adoring this movie. If at most people are like, I had fun with it. It was silly. It was harmless. It sounds though that the only people that really had a good time and were defending it were the Midnight Boys podcast that you mentioned. Because you listen to their podcast and they seem to be the only ones. Because I mean, everybody else here is just like, it's a movie.
Mm-hmm.
David?
No, yeah, it's a movie. Basically, I liked. Is it though? No, yeah, I liked the actors. I thought they were doing a really good job with what they were working with. I mean, my main problem really people kept saying like it was going like it was using the 80s cheese of it all, but I was like, no, I feel like it didn't go hard enough with either the 80s cheese or like at least the fact that, you know, it was trying to be funny within this world. uh I mean, like, really the best example of like what I'm trying to say here is the score. You know, the action will go up, and then you get this like guitar riff going on, and then I mean I can't even remember like what it was exactly and all that, but like there was these certain notes that pop up every single time an action scene came up, and then that's all I could remember while watching it. It's like just certain notes. It's kind of like if I was doing the Indiana Jones theme, and all I could tell you was bum ba bum, and then that's it. Not the rest of it. Like that's how it is, and I'm like, I wish that I would have like, you know, go for it. You know, fucking keep it going, make it louder, like just go all out. The best example of this actually is I'm sure if you look up Legend of Vox Machina Heavy, there's a scene that's, you know, that's basically an animated version of someone's D&D campaign, and there's a version and there's a bard in that group, and he's able to like conjure this hand with his music, and he's lifting all of these friends up, and he goes, I can't like lift you guys any higher, like you guys are too heavy. And he goes, wait a minute, heavy, and like pulls out like this magic guitar pick, and then he starts riffing in an electric guitar basically and all that, and keeps going with it. That's what I wish like it would have gone with Masters of the Universe, but it never really did.
So the score was not there for you.
The score was not there for me, and then not even
you
the
know,
soundtrack.
What's weird though, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this is a point to point out here. Point to point out.
Yeah,
I couldn't have said it better. Sorry. The music was done by Daniel Pemberton, who earlier this year did Project Hail Mary, a great score, and is known for the Spider-Verse scores. So then what happened here, and this is why I'm telling you, and this is not, I think, to knock Daniel Pemberton, but with composers, I think you can very much tell that better directors they come out with better scores. And then sometimes when those same composers go to other directors who are not quite as good, then you kind of get material like this. Spoiler alert, a lot of people are saying that John Williams did his like best score with Spielberg. Well, yeah, I can kind of see why, because like who did he have before this? It was James Mangold for Indiana Jones, which was maybe the single worst score that John Williams ever did. So it's like, this is why it matters who you collaborate with and who your director is. Because, I mean, if you're telling me that Daniel Pemberton, the same guy that made like out of this world tracks for Spider-Verse, then came in here and was like, it sounded like he was phoning it in.
That, to be fair though, the people who do the score are not the same people who put in songs within movies. Like I think those are separate people. But
are you talking about the score or the soundtrack?
Well, because there is a soundtrack with Masters of the Universe and all that, but like even then, the songs that they were using in that movie just wasn't working for me at all.
Didn't hit either.
But like the fact that with Daniel Pemberton in Spider-Verse, again, the people who put in songs versus who do compose the music and all that are different people. But the fact that they worked so well, both of them worked well together within the movie and Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Should tell you,
the
like,
difference is that all those needle drops were, for the most part, original songs. Because Metro Boomin is the artist, and I'm sure he was collaborating with Pemberton, because literally all those needle drops are original songs.
Yeah, so
that's incredible songs.
Yeah, that's why it worked so well together. So yeah, not even those needle drops in Masters of the Universe was working for me either. So, and all of it just, again, it didn't feel like they were really going for it, like the world that they had. And especially when it comes with the jokes too. There was one where Adam, he sees this bird, and it's this like sorceress lady, and he's like, "You're a talking bird," and she's like, "You have a talking cat." So like, what are you talking about? And it's jokes like that. I'm like, you didn't need that. We already know, like, that should just be normal for one thing. That should have been normal for him. The talking bird is there, and we don't need jokes of like, "Oh man, look how crazy this world is." Like, no, it's it's very, very tricky, but you have to figure out, like, you know, how to make fun of the world, but without like just making it sound dumb. Like the best one was when Adam goes back to his home world, and I don't mind spoiling it. But Adam goes back to his home world,
Notice how I didn't
and
give a fuck.
yeah,
I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, I don't think anybody here cares either. It's like, what are you gonna spoil a movie that no one cares about? No one's even watching it. As it's out in theaters right now. It's like it's a non-factor.
yeah.
So yeah, spoil it away.
Right, and then he's wondering like why Skeletor would do something like this, and Tila goes, "Oh, well, he's evil." And he's like, "Nah, there's got to be something more to it, you know."
I mean, it's Jared Leto, so I mean, probably got a point.
No, well, Tila goes, "He has a skull for a face. Like, I really don't think there's much more to him than that, you know." It's just like that's a better joke because it's like it's Adam trying to see the good in someone but.
Yeah.
Tila's pointing out the obvious here, like, hello, skull for her face.
Probably
I don't
was
know.
better handled in Shadow Lord. If you remember how like Two Boots is like, I don't know, that guy looks pretty untrustworthy to me. About Darth Maul,
Yeah.
Darth Maul just looks evil. So
Yeah. Like that's Master Universe actually handled that better. But like those kinds of jokes works because there's a bit of layer to it. Whereas the one with the bird is just like you just threw in the joke there and it just didn't land, dude. Sorry. So
here are the writers: Chris Butler, who comes from films like Kubo, Paranorman, and Missing Link. So that's an animation guy. Aaron Nee, who does live action. He comes from The Lost City. That was the Sandra Bullock Channing Tatum movie, and also Adam Nee. Oh, brothers, Adam Nee, who same projects basically, and also David Callahan, who contributed to screenplays. One of the writers for Across the Spider-Verse, Shang-Chi, Wonder Woman 1984, Zombieland, what was it? Double Tap, Mortal Kombat. That was the one from 2000. No, I'm sorry. That was Mortal Kombat from 2021. And The Expendables from 2010.
Jesus.
So this is any of this ringing some bells as to why the writing ended up being what it was?
Yeah, pretty much. It kind of explains it, sadly.
When I said I heard a very audible reaction because I think the disgust still lives inside your soul of Wonder Woman 1984, right?
Yeah.
That was the one that was like, oh, here we go again.
Basically.
Yeah.
So basically it was just pretty disappointing. I kind of wish they would have just gone for the craziness of that world. And then, I mean, to compare with Kevin Smith and all that, like I much prefer Kevin Smith's. I like the way he handled Tila's character. I much preferred how he handled Adam's character. Like he no longer has that weight of keeping the secret with his friends and all that. The action, I mean, it just works so well in animation. I mean, the action was actually pretty cool. Some parts of it, at least, in Masters of the Universe, in the movie. I mean, but especially the ending of it. But you just can't beat what they were doing with the animation in Kevin Smith's version of it. And I don't know, there were just some things within the world that I just found it more interesting. Like I like the idea that anyone who actually has the sword can transform into like He-Man and all that, and like that just made it more dangerous. And then this in the movie, they kept saying the whole time, it's like, oh my gosh, we can't have Skeletor get the sword. And then it turns out it's just a chosen one type of thing where Adam can wield it, and it's like, okay, so he just took away the what's the word, the plot point, I guess you can say, of the movie. So it just, there's no point of it in like even rewatching it because I know it's gonna go. Whereas if you just made it seem like he was able to wield it, it would have had some stakes. That's what I was trying to say. Took away the stakes from it by doing that. So I don't know. They set up She-Ra, which if you get a whole different set of writers, that might work better. Especially with the She-Ra show on. Well, I mean, both Masters and She-Ra were on Netflix. So, and I know for sure She-Ra got like a lot of popularity.
So do you feel it was the setup of that character and whatever film that could be? Do you feel it was organic, or do you feel like it was like done a bit like clumsily?
She-Ra?
Setting up that movie. Yeah.
It was an after credit scene, so like it was just
okay.
And then there was there was a line at the end. But I can't remember how it went down. Basically, it was Adam's mom talking to Man at Arms, Idris Elba's character, and I think she said something like, "Oh, when he came back, I thought like he would be with her or something like that." Basically, talking about Shira, because I think she's supposed to be Adam's sister, or maybe it's another like cousin thing. I'm not sure. Um, but she's clearly somewhere else, and she's transformed into Shira. So, but that was the after credit scene. She's somewhere else. We see her as Shira, and that was basically the setup. So if they want to take a shot at it, just have someone else completely different do it. Fuck it. I say fuck it and have what's her name? Barbie director. Greta Gerwig.
Greta Gerwig, yeah.
To do it. Let's see how she does with action. I know she's working on Narnia, so I doubt she wouldn't have time and all that, but take a chance. Just do it. Again, just go for it. And for one thing, Greta Gerwig is actually someone that I think will go for it.
Yeah, and her being attached to that might make people actually care to watch that in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Which if you do a She-Ra movie, if people don't care about this, why would they care about the follow up? It's just like it just feels like we're running in circles here. It's like people don't want to watch this. You've not taken the time to like keep this IP alive. Not every IP is going to work. Unfortunately, that's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it could work on a smaller animation scale, but then people nuked that to hell. So I don't know what you're going to go there and do. Anyway, it just seems like this is going to be one of those that just gets forgotten about. But we'll see how that works. Sorry about your disappointment, David. I'm sure you were looking forward to that one.
A little bit.
Also, what were the Midnight Boys going on about? They actually enjoyed this film a lot, or
they were. Like... I mean, they were just having fun with it. They liked what they did with Adam. His character arc was pretty interesting. Basically, he was just this weak kid. His dad didn't really approve of him. Basically, he wanted him to be stronger and all that. And then they get attacked. He gets sent to Earth to keep the sword safe. And then when he comes back, he does manage to wield the sword. Like, he has the strength. Like, he finally has like the power to protect his friends. But when the moment comes to like basically prove to his dad, he fails. He actually kills his dad. Let me tell you the other worst part about this movie, actually. When there's an action scene going on, there are other characters just doing nothing. People keep pointing it out as a story thing. It's like, no. Whenever He-Man is like fighting, people are locked in. They're interested in watching it. They want to see the power. And it's like, no. The director just didn't know what the fuck to do with them. Because it would be like Tila and this one sorceress, like Evil Lyn, fighting each other. But then when He-Man and Skeletor are fighting, they're literally just standing there and just watching. It's like, why is the evil witch lady not taking this opportunity to try and stab Tila here? Like, this makes absolutely no sense. There was a funny bit where this cat creature was fighting this beast, and like, you didn't see them fighting, but they were fighting because when they cut to them later on, they're like, the cat thing is like biting the beast's head and all that, and it was actually a pretty funny joke. Like I said, that joke works so well. Anyway, so with Adam's character,
so the editing was not very good then.
The editing was shit, basically, on the fighting scene.
Do you want to know who it is? It's Paul Rubel, and these are his works. He's edited films like Thor, the 2007 original Transformers movie, Collateral, the first Blade movie, Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen, Bumblebee, Hancock, The Fate of the Furious, Transformers: Age of Extinction, Public Enemies with Johnny Depp from 2009, Miami Vice, the 2006 film. I haven't seen that one. He edited a film we discussed previously, Peter Pan from 2003, the P.J. Hogan movie.
Oh, okay.
The Fifth Wave with Chloe Grace Moretz. That was interesting. I had not thought about that movie like ever. Battleship, the 2012 movie with Rihanna.
It's a big hilarious. It's a mixed bag because you're bringing up some stuff. I'm like, oh wait, no, that was interesting, but then you're like, oh wait, I don't know about that one. So I mean,
yeah, there's more.
I mean,
Go ahead, continue.
it really just all comes down to the director, though. So, but with Adam's character, so like he's in that constant struggle of like he wants to be strong, prove himself to his dad and like all the rest of the people that he can be a good leader. And then when it comes time to face off Skeletor one final time, you know, he gets the power again, and instead of like going to a fight, he goes, Skeletor, let's talk. Like he doesn't, because um basically it's not about like how other people should be, or he shouldn't take in like other people he, how others think he should be. He just be more comfortable with himself. And when it came down to it, he'd rather talk to Skeletor, to the villain, to, you know, come up with a peaceful solution. And then this is where Jared Leto's character was just like, nah, I'm just evil guy. Like I just want to kill stuff.
About that character, if I can cut in, David, here's another review. I gave the movie 2 stars, but it says Jim Bro Skeletor. I'm sorry, no. It brings me absolutely no joy to report that Jared Leto delivers an all-time performance as a sassy gay skeleton in this. Is he really that good in this movie?
He's really good. Like it's almost unrecognizable. If I saw this movie not knowing he was in it, I would never have guessed it. Like that's how good he is, especially because like.
What were the other Jared Leto performances you've seen lately? I know you saw him in Tron.
Yeah,
Tron Ares.
Tron, Suicide Squad. I saw parts of Dallas Buyers Club. What else?
What about Morbius?
Morbius.
You didn't do Morbin Time?
Nah,
Morphin Time?
I never saw that one actually.
What about House of Gucci?
No.
He was hilarious. It was so bad though. It was hilarious in House of Gucci.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all-timer like Razzie performance, if you ask me. But he's been quite bad for a long time now. That doesn't mean he can't be good in things. I mean, I think he was good in Blade Runner, when that came out a few years back. So he can be good. Okay, here's one though. I'm dead. This review. I wake up in the morning and I step outside. If you know the whole meme of like of He-Man. So He-Man, there's like that song like I.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that meme. Okay.
Like there's like a 9-hour like YouTube meme of like.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's a deep cut. That's where most people know He-Man. I'm sorry to say today, than from the actual show. It sucks. I even as a kid, I would watch that show, but not all the time. It would only be on at certain moments, and I think it was only for 1 year. I have a deep, like in the crevices of my mind, a deep library of shows that Cartoon Network would put on. But there are a few that I can't recall too much of because there wasn't much to show and it wasn't on very much. But it was, to me, He-Man is like the definition of a stereotypical like Saturday morning cartoon, at least in the ones that the Gen Xers would be more familiar with, and the older millennials would be, but as a younger millennial myself, very, very young millennial, like the last millennium before the Gen Z came along, but like we had cartoons all the time. So I don't really have that feel of a Saturday morning cartoon. At least my definition is more like Kids WB, which would be like a mixture of anime and like some like Pokemon, Jalen Showdown, Yu-Gi-Oh, Jackie Chan Adventures. Like that's what I associate Saturday morning cartoons to be. He-Man is something entirely, I think, not in the same vein.
Yeah.
But the point is, He-Man wasn't really a thing when I was a kid 20 years ago. And that's kind of, I think, what's playing a part into all this. Going to ask you, though, is this film, does it feel like a movie that's like a throwback to the 2000s era where they would do remakes of a live action adaptation? Or does it feel like a very 2020s movie? And like how it looks and how it feels and how it's structured?
I want to say more so 2020s movie. If you remember when we were doing our Spielberg like reviews, I did say that like there's a movie of style over substance. There are some parts where it looks really, really good. The costumes are like super great. And so there is those things that it has that benefits from. But I want to say it's still more so 2020 slop, basically, because there are some bad CGI shots still, especially some green screen stuff. And then, like I said, like the jokes that they were adding in, it didn't fit right with this movie, especially because like I don't think I've ever even seen He-Man, the like cartoon shows or even the 2000 ones, but the one I did watch that they remade was Thundercats. I don't know if you ever saw that one. They
Barely. That barely even registered. I barely
that's
even know what that is.
no, yeah, it only lasted one, like, really, I'm fairly certain one season, and it just barely aired reruns on Cartoon Network. Like, I always missed big chunks of it, but I remember being like, why isn't this getting more praise? Like, this is actually some pretty cool stuff and some interesting things going on. And that's actually one that I wouldn't mind, like, they try to bring back. I wish I can find like the remade show that they did for it, but yeah, I never really got that vibe from it at all. Because there was more uh I would say the one that I did get vibes from it, it was Kevin Smith's one and all that. And I mean, just to kind of quickly rant about it, because
Sure.
the big the people who really did like this movie were the anti-woke, the ones that hated Kevin Smith's show, and it makes
I
no
wonder.
sense.
I mean, I'm sure they're agenda driven, right? Like they can't be.
For sure.
Do you feel they have real opinions at this point, or is that just part of the shtick?
uh it's hard to say because like they sounded very like genuinely happy
Maybe they're
about
just good
this
actors.
movie. Yeah, I guess so. But like it makes zero sense because for one thing they're saying about this movie, it's like they're thinking that it's well, actually I don't want to give their thoughts about what they like thought about this movie, but so
But they're
like, here's
full of shit, basically.
I say they're full of shit because so what was the big thing that happened with Kevin Smith's show, Man at Arms. He is like the soldier. He's like the most badass person there. Man at Arms. He's the guy who's supposed to protect the king. When Adam dies in his show, people find out that he's He-Man because he kept it his secret identity, becoming He-Man and all that. And so when people found out, Man at Arms was the only one that knew about it, and the king was pissed off about it. He's like, "Okay, you leave then." And Tila is his daughter, and she got mad at him about it. Like, why would you keep this a secret from me? And all that. So, time passes by and he's just living off in this village, protecting people and all that. He's still like doing his job basically, even though it's not for the king. When Tila sees him, she's like, "Hey, I'm off on this mission. Like, I don't want you near me and all that." And he goes please forgive me for keeping this secret. And he like gets down on one knee, like gets her hand, and is like, "Please forgive me." And the anti-woke crowd find that to be demasculating. Okay, I really want you to remember that. Okay, they found that to be demasculating. And so the mission that Tila goes on, she then asks him like, "Okay, I can maybe forgive you for what you did, but I don't want you to go with me still. I want you to do something very important, which is to protect Castle Grayskull, which is the thing that holds like all the power basically." And for to her to ask him, just him, to do that is already a lot because there are armies going after that place. She goes off on her mission, and when they come back to Castle Grayskull, they see Man at Arms just fucking annihilating armies by himself. Okay, like he's destroying rockets. I don't know where he got them from. That makes no logical sense, but he's doing it. But that's just how much of a badass he is. And then they get to him and he goes, "That was just the fifth wave, by the way, that I just handled." Meaning like he's handled even more people in that castle. Okay, so somehow he got demasculated in Kevin Smith's show. We get this movie. He tries to protect the king, but Skeletor wins, captures the king and queen, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I failed." When Adam comes back, decades later, we see him and he's a drunk. And like he's just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I failed. Like I failed you and all that." And he just keeps drinking. And his daughter is looking at him as a constant disappointment and all that. They do make up for it in the end. He does give a reason. It's like, "I think it's better for her to see me as a drunk than as a failure and all that." So there's a reason for that. But the fact that he goes through the whole movie just being a drunk, seeing himself as a failure, somehow that's better than what Kevin Smith did. It makes
Obviously it's
zero
not.
sense. Like,
That's so stupid. Yeah, he's a drunk and a bum, but he's not emasculated.
I
What?
guess so. It makes zero sense. So anyone who's hated on Kevin Smith, so again, Kevin Smith's one, like I had problems with it too. There was a scene with Evil Lynn and Skeletor that was just like, why would you even add this at all? I get what she's trying to do, but it's awkward. And then second season, I I just found it to be okay. I didn't like it as much as the first season and all that, but either way, though, there was still some great stuff with Kevin Smith's show that was far better than the movie did. So
That's hilarious. What's interesting though is I was noting I caught a review here, a funny one. The fact that this month we got 2 blonde superhero movies, and the one with the shorter skirt is the male one. The world is healing. That's funny, but it brings me it reminds me that people were complaining about the Odyssey that the Romans have pants and not like skirts or like basically historical accurate stuff. And like, well, I'm sure those people are happy with at least this movie because I'm sure there's plenty of skirt action.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah. Like I said, the actor was pretty cool. So
yeah, I'm curious to see where his career goes. You know, what's his name? Nicholas, right? Like I've seen him before in only one movie, Bottoms, and he was just playing a stereotypical jock there. But we'll see where he goes. But I'm sure he's got like some.
He came out in
I'm sure
Sheep
he'll have
Detectives.
some good roles. He did. I just saw that. I need to watch that still. But I'm like, as himself or as a voice?
Himself.
Oh, okay. So I was like, you're not.
Yeah, he's like, you're not gonna recognize him if it's just a voice.
Yeah. Okay, well, that was Masters of the Universe. Shall we move on to the next one, which is Backrooms, a film that I thought some of us thought that we had talked about last time, but it was just Obsession. So this is the other half of the like craze that's happening right now with horror films. This is A24, and this is from Kane Parsons, who just turned 21 this year, or maybe this month. This is based off of a concept that apparently had been a sensation on YouTube and the internet for a couple of years now, and I believe James Wan and Blumhouse picked him out of a lineup. I believe it was him, or maybe it was somebody else. Somebody picked him up and like got him all this attention and got signed to work to direct this movie at like 17 years of age, and like that's insane. Or so this has been long gestating, and it's the idea that even got made. He got signed at that young age, but he got this original concept that in and of itself was based off of something else. Like the actual images and the memes of Backroom has been something that's been around for a while. If Peter were here, he'd give you the whole history. It was quite extensive, but it's a lot of history about it. But Kane Parsons is mainly associated for like turning it into his own concept. But the idea that it stars 2 well-known actors is incredible. We have Chiwetel Ejiofor, which I mean, great in everything.
Yeah.
But he also has Renate Reinsve, who you may recall earlier this year won Best Actress at the European Awards for Sentimental Value. She was incredible in that movie, and of course she was well known before for The Worst Person in the World. I believe also by Joachim Trier, the same filmmaker who made Sentimental Value. So the idea that it's like, well, this is your first movie and you have these 2 people in your movie, incredible. And you also have the full backing of A24. And guess what? I don't know if at the end of its run, but I think it might even rival or exceed the amount of money that Marty Supreme made for A24, which is insane.
Dang.
If it comes anywhere close to that, because that's Chalamet. That like that's like, oh shit, that's a bit of a wake up call. Like this guy might have the sauce. Who knows? But this has been catching a lot of people's attention for a good month now. This is Backrooms. You are not supposed to be here. A strange doorway appears in the basement of a furniture showroom. That's literally what it is. Here are some popular reviews from Letterboxd. Some users. White boys are wearing crop tops in horror movies again. God bless. Just randomness, but this... one of the supporting characters is wearing a crop top. I believe it was Finn Bennett, the boyfriend that gets... You know, describing this movie is like trying to describe a dog to someone who's never seen a dog. Oh, that's a good one. That's actually in the movie itself. Okay, here's some real reviews. Here's Dan Bayer. Such a strange fucking movie. As much as I want more from it in many ways, it gives me so much more in terms of things to think about afterward that I kind of love it anyway. Here's Isaac Feldberg, a little bit more, I think, more critical. Well, maybe not so much. Derivative in a complimentary way. How steadily Backrooms traces the contours of their lonely, unfulfilling lives, the two main characters here, and finds something as surreal and somber there are as what they uncover in this other retracted place. So really, overall complimentary. It's too long for I don't want to read the whole thing. Thomas Flight, we want to disconnect from the loop to escape, to find freedom, the sky, the natural light, but we are somehow drawn deeper into a labyrinth of fragmented memories. Let's see, Ryan McQuaid, a little bit more critical here. Creative world building and a creepy tone that made me anxious from the start is slowly taken away once the message, quote unquote, is spelled out for you. Bailey Parkinson, experientially out of body for the most part, especially sitting close on the biggest screen I could find. I found this less scary or even unnerving than it was just flat out fascinating, and entirely absorbing as a result. I could have wandered through those rooms forever, and there was something so exciting about what was essentially a video game experience about entirely out of my control. This kind of shouldn't work, right? Without being the spearhead for progression, without dictating each step toward myself. How could this mysterious labyrinth ever hold my awe and attention in the same way? I don't really know yet how, but this evoked and embodied serious PT energy. And I was enthralled start to finish, even with the character stuff outside the backrooms themselves being thin at best. All around a must see, I think. Jeff saying, I may have enjoyed Obsession more on a moment-to-moment basis, but I think I'm also ready to declare Kane Parsons as the winner of the Great YouTube to Filmmaker War of 2026. He clearly is the most talented and assured image maker of all his contemporaries, but my issue with Backrooms, and this is obviously speculation, is there were clearly things foisted upon him by adults, quote-unquote, that they're easily the worst thing about the movie. Very cool horror movie with so much under the hood that would have benefited immensely from saying less. Interesting takes about this movie. For the most part, I think people are enjoying this. The public is very much enjoying this. I will tell you, I myself was quite caught off guard by the reaction to this movie. As far as my theater is concerned, the location of my theater, to me is like a petri dish, a microcosm of audiences at large, especially when it comes to horror. Horror films do very well here. They garner a lot of attention. And my theater was, for the most part, pretty full. Not packed, but it was decently, sized, the amount of people in there. They were silent the entire time. You could hear a pin drop. And when the film concluded, smashing applause. Smashing applause. People loved this movie. David, thoughts?
I really like this movie. The ending, I have some issues with it, but overall though, I was really enjoying it. I like I like the character, constantly keeps going deeper and deeper into the room and all that, and just kind of going insane about it, or at least like obsessive about it. And I like that. And then when it gets to the horror aspects of it, very interesting. I was really like on the almost covering my eyes in certain moments and all that. But the ending is where I have some issues. It just kind of, I don't want to say anticlimactic. It just didn't
Didn't hit?
It didn't hit. I didn't like what they took the main character to kind of out of nowhere. And I think it overall though too, maybe the director just didn't know kind of, I don't think he knew where to take the story once he started it. So yeah,
That's an interesting. I think this is an interesting discussion because I liked the movie. I enjoyed the movie for the most all of it, really. I think what I loved though about the movie were the horror elements.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it opened phenomenally. I was like, oh fuck, I love the opening. And I think my favorite stretch was when the main character here, Clark, he got the two employees to come in with him, and after the boyfriend kind of gets like pulled down and they start going into those rooms, I was like, what the fuck? I was like losing my mind. The rest of the movie is interesting, and I don't know if I love what happens in the rest of the film for a couple of reasons. Peter, I will say, loved this movie. Like, he was very enthralled by it. I think he probably would call this like among his more favorite movies of the year so far. But he really loved it, and so did my audience. We were talking about it, and he was kind of like helping me like clue into some of the things that I was quite missing. But that ending was a little bit like, I wasn't quite feeling it. I wasn't quite feeling it as like, oh, this is where you're gonna stop the story. I guess, upon reflection, I can see that as like there's an echo of her back in the back rooms. Okay. But I'm not quite sure. I wasn't feeling it. I guess you could say the same way that you were about that ending. I don't know. I just like, okay, it ended, but it ended notably in a lower place than some of the higher highs in the film were making me feel. Like, for me, the images that were just coming out of those back rooms, like, so many of them are quite just like disturbing. But there was one image that was so haunting to me in a very just like ethereal manner. Like, I know that you probably didn't care for Skinamarink all that much, but there were elements of Skinamarink that were in this movie that I quite enjoyed. And part of that was just like I don't know if subliminal messaging is just like part of it, but like there are some images that are coming at you that are like, what I love about the film is how it weaponizes nostalgia. And in like, for instance, like in the back rooms, you see like, by the way, there are so many hidden clues and Easter eggs in there about like the characters and their clothing and whatever that are like, oh shit, when I realized it. But like the image, and I literally felt all of my body just drop when like Clark is running away and he opens the door and it's a Christmas tree in the middle of it. That I don't know what it was about that image that was so like disturbing to me. But that's what I mean when I say like weaponizing of nostalgia, because that's just like, oh, that's like Christmas tree. Everyone remembers like just Christmas time, but even staring at a Christmas tree at night, like, and then using that as like the focal point of all this like horrid shit happening that's about to happen right now is like, and then the things that some of that stuff and like things that were crawling out of the darkness kind of reminded me of like Toy Story, like in Sid's bedroom, if you remember about how all the fucked up like toys that were in there. So that run was legitimately electric. I loved that part. It is an interesting choice that they had Clark, the main character here, end up kind of like loving that place, and then the whole the whole he beast or she beast, whatever it was a projection of himself. That's an interesting idea. I think it's fair to say that perhaps that came out of nowhere. Because I mean, to me, I was like, wait, what? I was thrown because I wasn't expecting that at all. But there have been some readings of the movie that have been like, okay, well, maybe this was there because, it's never established, and this is all that I'm borrowing from like people who have tweeted, but I don't know the names. But this is what I remember by what I absorbed from it. Like, some people were reading it like, we never really know the reason exactly why Clark is in that counseling. Like, what if he legitimately like beat his wife? Like, that's never said out loud, but what if he did that? And what if he's like there to see the therapist because it's a court order? What if he is violent and we just didn't know it? and him being shown to love it in the back rooms. And by the way, the whole film we see how like he's putting the blame somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if perhaps that is a correct reading on it. Maybe if I watch it again, I'll catch that, but I don't necessarily have the overwhelming urge to see it again. Because that ending is kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
okay. And then I will say, it is. What did you think about the reveal when they finally? It was like toward the end of the film, and they reveal the creature. Did you feel it was like horrifying, silly, underwhelming, a mixture of all three? What did you feel about that? Because I was a little bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I get what it's there to represent, but the reveal of it felt a little bit like, I don't know. I think what I had in my mind was far more terrifying, but that's just me.
Yeah, same. I think honestly, I think it was a pirate costume that kind of like might have thrown me off, especially when it came to like chasing the main woman, and all she did was just cut off the pig leg, and then just like, okay, there, I have the advantage now, and all that, and I don't know, just I think that might have just thrown me off a bit, because I think if it just made it, might have just been him, maybe a bit more deformed, kind of like how that one, I don't know, what was it, like a redhead lady looked and all that. Maybe I would have been more
Yeah,
creeped
that
out
was
about
pretty
it.
fucked up.
And then, but then also too, I feel like there was some CG to it, and like I have this rule for me, when it comes to horror, like just no CG in horror movies. If it's gonna look bad, like you completely took me out of the movie, and so there's that. And
But then there's also this.
yes,
And it's stuff. This is the kind of stuff that pulls me back in. And so it's like a bit of a that fucked me up. I'm like, what? Like just even seeing like someone coming out of the shadow or going back into the hallway. I'm like, okay,
especially like the way
that stuff.
especially like the way it looks, or like they'll be going to another room, but there's like a wall in between whatever room they're in and all that, and it's just kind of like, oh god, this thing gonna pop out. Like you just constantly in your head thinking like, what the heck is gonna happen next?
Yes, yes, very much so. I thought it. I will say that mural was pretty fucking spooky. I loved this.
Oh yeah,
When they come across it. I think it was also in that same scene right there too. But yeah, I mean, the horror stuff to me does work. I think its attempts at the deeper meanings. I'm not gonna say they fall flat, but because I don't think they fall flat. But I also see I didn't come out of it like in love with it. You know, I'm like there are individual moments that I loved, but like I don't know if like to me this was like I personally like, and I haven't seen too many, but I still thought this was probably I enjoyed I think Send Help a lot more actually, only because it was like I mean Send Help wasn't scary, but it was funny.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it is. But I mean, I don't want to diminish this movie. I mean, I am happy that people are enjoying it. But there are aspects of it that are a little. Let's see here. Here's a funny review by Brendan Hodges. In Backrooms, all the characters are contrived, the dialogue sucks, and the script is as thin as the walls between the film's liminal worlds. But none of that really matters because when you go through those weird yellow rooms, it's a genuine marvel of surreal horror. I liked it.
I don't know about
that's an interesting.
about the
I don't know.
dialogue.
I don't think it sucks. I think it's fine. I mean,
I like that. I like the therapy scene in the beginning and all that. How they were. Going
I
back
did
and
that.
forth.
Yeah, I did like that.
It got me interested in like what the heck is going to happen next, and yeah.
And of course, I mean, Juwachal and Ejiofor and Renato Reinsvar are like great in their roles. So there's like nothing really I think to be critical about that. But on the whole, though, yeah. Maybe we'll bring Peter back on here and he can talk more about the reasons for why he loved this movie. And I am quite taken with those reasons too. I would be lying if I said I felt any of that while I watched it, or if any of that actually mattered when I listened to it. It's like, oh, okay. Like it's more of like a I like this. This is good. But it didn't really live in my mind. I mean, some of these images do. The images do.
Mm-hmm.
The overall film and the characters, not really.
Yeah, it just doesn't. Again, I don't think it just stuck the landing as well as it wanted it to. So,
Yeah. And
then
excuse me. The next movie we're talking about, well, I feel like that's going to be something kind of special here. So, that was Backrooms. Here is the next movie we're talking about, which is Disclosure Day. Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg. Director here, starring Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Coleman Domingo, Eve Hewson, and Wyatt Russell, and many other supporting players here. Returning from Spielberg's crew, Janusz Kaminski, the cinematographer. We have here succeeding Michael Kahn. Michael Kahn returns as a producer. He was the main editor, but replacing him as editor is Sarah Brosher, who her role was co-editor with all the previous, I think, post Ready Player One, West Side Story, Fabelmans for Spielberg. John Williams returns here for the 30th film collaboration with Steven Spielberg. At 94 years old, John Williams comes back to do some more music. And by the way, he's already said, I'm back for the next one. So, and he's retired, but he'll if he lives and it's like, Steven, if I'm alive, I'm doing your next one. So, and apparently before we haven't even talked about this movie just yet, but like the next movie is already running. It's like, it's going to be some kind of a Western, but not like a traditional old school Western, but like an updated Western. So it's already moving, that movie. So I'm hopeful that we're not going to wait 3 years. Maybe like at most 2.
Yeah.
Like maybe I would hope that this comes out as quickly as possible, but that one's already rolling. This comes to us by an original story concept by Steven Spielberg. He outlined the entirety of the story's structure, and then he asked a frequent collaborator of his, David Koepp, to come in and to do the script. David Koepp, who is a very, I think, polarizing screenplay writer. Generally speaking, I don't think very highly of him as a writer, only because a lot of the things that he's written on his own or away from directors who are quite skilled are not that great. Here's look, David Koepp has, with Spielberg, written this movie, Disclosure Day, Jurassic Park, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and War of the Worlds. I mean, that already alone should kind of give you an idea of like, okay, well, most of those didn't quite work in that lineup. And then here's his screenplays outside of Spielberg. He wrote the original Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise, directed by Brian De Palma. He wrote the Robert Zemeckis movie, Death Becomes Her, which features Meryl Streep, Goldie Hawn, and Bruce Willis. He wrote Zathura for Jon Favreau. He wrote the most recent Indiana Jones movie, which, yeah. He wrote the original Spider-Man with Sam Raimi.
Okay.
Then he also wrote the disastrous Mummy from 2017, which stars Tom Cruise.
I never saw it, so.
So do you see how we just keep like ping-ponging back and forth between like, that's a good one, that's a bad one, that's a good one, that's a bad one. So it's like he really he's the definition of a hit or miss screenwriter. And when we get to the whole like reaction of it, he is the single aspect of the film that I think even people who love and defend it are like going after, and like he very clearly is the weak link here. I don't know why it was that Steven didn't just ask Tony Kushner. Tony Kushner wrote with him Munich, Lincoln, West Side Story, Fabelmans. I'm not sure why Tony couldn't have come back, because I do think that whatever blemishes the movie has could have been very much, I think, alleviated with his involvement. But that's where it is. But David Koepp in his screenplay for this movie is kind of a lightning rod. Like, people either love it or hate it or both at the same time, which, if you can even believe that. Anyway, yeah, this has been interesting to watch, David. Again, I'm actually very happy that we've been watching his movies lately and and we made it an event, because the Spielberg fans really love this movie. And I am an avowed Spielberg person. Like, he's my person, he's my director, because so much of his sensibilities as a human being, even the interests that he has and his humanity in his films, very much gel with like who I am. So I see myself literally in all of his films. And so in many ways, anything he makes for the most part is like right up my alley. There are maybe only a handful of films of his that I just don't flat out like at all. So I think it was like, okay, the idea that I wouldn't like this is a little bit unreasonable. I think for the most part I would. But what I've noticed is a lot of the Spielberg guys love this film. Not all of them, but most of them do. And then what's really, I think, not something that I foresaw. I mean, look, this is my controversial take. I'm not too surprised by the idea that this is a very divisive movie, because it is a very divisive film. I don't want to spend too much time talking about that because it is kind of like absurd, but like it is extreme, and we should note that some people are having some really aggressive like takeaways from the film as far as like why it's not just bad, but it's a uniquely bad movie. I noticed that a lot of the people that did not vibe with the Fabelmans did also not vibe with this. I also do want to say that the Fabelmans might be an interesting place to start this conversation, because all of a sudden, I'm seeing a lot of love for that movie. All of a sudden, people are like, wow, that was one of Spielberg's best. And I love that, but I also can't let it go without acknowledging, what the fuck took you so long? And where were you when that kind of, I don't know, talk was rather important, in the sense that, where it was in its original run in making money, or even its awards run? It's like, hello, that's when that kind of recognition was. But I mean, and even with this, there's like a lot of like detractors and a lot of defenders. I just feel like, even though a lot of people have this idea of Spielberg being like this like 10 out of 10 like craft director, in that they have this idea that all of his films are 10 out of 10s. They're not, number one, but also it's been over 20 years now that we've had new Steven Spielberg films, and they've been quite divisive, and there's been a continuous pattern of like, it comes out and it's kind of dismissed. Like AI, and I know you don't like AI, but AI was dismissed, and a lot of people love that movie now. Minority Report was also kind of dismissed at its time. People love that movie now. The Terminal, very much dismissed. I mean, they don't adore it, but it's a good movie. War of the Worlds, in a way, got dismissed, even though I don't think it's one of his best, but I think it's a very interesting film. I think Lincoln didn't get dismissed, but people don't act like it's an amazing movie, even though it is. Bridge of Spies and The Post came out, and it kind of did nothing as far as like people like getting a buzz about it. So there's a continuous pattern there of like these movies coming out, but then after a couple of years, what happens? Oh, you know what? These are actually good movies. Yeah, that's kind of like where I thought it would be too. So it's, to me, kind of interesting that I always expected people to be a little bit negative, but what I wasn't expecting was for some people to be like aggressively, this is a piece of shit. This is the worst thing ever made. What the fuck? Spielberg lost his sauce. I can't believe I wasted my time. Like, people are aggressively angry about this movie in a way that I'm like, what? So that was before I even seen it. I had seen the film. So Um, I've now seen it. You have seen it as well.
Mm-hmm.
We should say that we got some souvenirs because we
Yeah.
actually we caught a 70 millimeter presentation of the movie
Mhm.
on cue right here. Both of us are holding it up. Look, this alone makes the whole movie existing worth it because what the fuck, this was so nice, and it's like yes, exactly. Just pull it up, and show it off for the camera. How amazing this is! I mean, come on.
That's cool.
So that alone, I think, makes the whole experience worth it. And you know, not for nothing, experiencing it in 70 millimeter was like, well, it was beautiful, obviously the presentation, but just the novelty of hearing the little film reels in the back was just like that was a cool little thing that we don't, you know, hear all that often anymore.
Mm-hmm.
My first time watching this movie was very interesting and very all over the place and very disorienting. When the film opens, it opens in such a shocking way. I'm like, am I watching the right movie? What is this? It was so but almost immediately with the whole camera blocking and the sequences, I'm like, okay, I'm back in here. I hear the music, I know who it is. I know who's holding the camera. I'm back into it. When it ended the first time, I was feeling several things at the same time. I was like overwhelmed, but also underwhelmed at the same time because I'm like, wait a minute. Part of me was like, wait, what? I was like so reeled in to the last half hour that I was like, in some ways, cut off guard that it even ended because I'm like, why are you ending? this is like really good. But what was, and while I had some questions on my first viewing about like some of the choices made in the screenplay, what was not in doubt was the overwhelming emotion, or I guess the sense of emotion I felt coming out of the movie. I feel like to me, with a Spielberg movie, every time I watch it for the first time, it's so overwhelming because I always miss things that are like right in front of my face. There's a lot of things happening with the camera and with the story that I just couldn't quite really process. But what happened at the end of the film and overall as a piece was so moving and beautiful to me that I really did have an emotional experience, like walking away from it and like thinking like it activated and unlocked a part of like, you know, I guess my dreams, my desires, my hopes for humanity that I wasn't quite, you know, expecting it to really touch on. This is a film that is sold on the idea of like Steven Spielberg is back with a science fiction film that involves aliens. And it was about, I think, something far more moving and far more, at least as an idea of what could happen. And it just, I went to sleep thinking about it. I woke up thinking about it. Like it was staying in my mind. I watched this with Peter, and he himself was, you know, wrestling with it. Like he, and look, he hasn't really liked a Spielberg movie in a long time, but even he was a little bit like, wow, I mean, I can't stop thinking about this film. I suspect when we come back, he'll have a lot more. He'll bring the hammer down. So if you want to hear the takedown of that film, we'll have him back for that. And that isn't to say that I don't have my own critiques, but I will say that this was. What can I tell you? This is a very beautiful movie. I loved it. And the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm just like really, really clicking with it. I've had the pleasure of having seen this 3 times now, and I'm very pleased to tell you that the more times I see it, the more it flows, the more I can kind of like, especially, I don't know if you could tell when I was seeing it with you, David, but like I was like really trying to pay attention a lot more, and I was like, okay, I click where this goes, I can track where that's gonna go. Some of those like I think rougher pieces kind of like came together the more I watched it, as far as like, you know, where we go from point A to point B. But to me, I just felt like this movie was such a beautiful continuation of everything Spielberg has already given us, and also in a way a continuation of what the Fabelmans gave us, as far as like the emotionality of like him as a person and as a filmmaker. And sometimes I feel like he does things and he's not even aware himself of like what he's actually getting at, because I do think there are quite a few layers on layers in this film. but I think you kind of have to be a Spielberg person to really kind of like read into those and like really get a lot out of it. Because if you're not, I'm not sure if that's going to work on that level for you. But as a movie, I've personally thought it was very entertaining. I will tell you that I was quite taken with all the performances. Obviously, I love the direction. I thought John Williams delivered one of the best scores he's given in quite some time. This is what I mean, that when you have a director that's like pushing you in a certain direction, you can get some great music out of it. It had thrilling moments. It also had some unexpected moments of humor that I will tell you surprisingly worked for me.
Mhm.
I was quite nervous about how tonally inconsistent this would be, because that was one of the things that was being levied against the movie. And I will tell you, though, that in all the times that I've seen it, maybe it's me. And you know how humor can be hit or miss with some people, but I thought that every attempt at humor here kind of worked. I know there was a bit that was, I think, a little bit frustrating with the whole cell phone in the car. That to me was like, I that was pretty funny. When Emily Blunt puts the phone out of the car and they're trying to like run it over, that worked very much so. And I enjoyed how you were getting a little bit like, what the fuck? How hard is it to like crush a phone with a car? But I don't know if you would label it screwball, but even the moments when they're like picking up the henchmen while they're invisible was like hilarious stuff. So like, to me, I vibed very much with that. So, you know, I guess I've not made up my mind entirely all the way how I feel about David Koepp's screenplay, because I do think that there's a lot of it that actually works quite well for me. Everything with Emily Blunt, amazing. The whole memory back and the revelation with the music and the cinematography, that to me, 10 out of 10. That the moment it gets to when we're in the house, it made me feel things that the best of cinema makes me feel. Because I'm all about those kind of sequences like that go back into like the past and like awakening a part of yourself. There is some really interesting sci-fi elements here that I think work surprisingly well considering what's at play. And I mean, yeah, as a piece, I think it moves by. If there are negatives that I have, it would be, this is more of a personal disappointment. I really like Josh O'Connor, but I did want more out of his character. I think so much of this movie is servicing Emily Blunt and not really enough of Josh O'Connor. And especially with Josh O'Connor, him and Eve Hewson, his girlfriend, I could have used maybe one more go around with those two, just to like button up that relationship. So I think that is a bit of an issue there. But I mean, I'm trying to think about anything else, but I think for the most part, this is a film that worked very well for me. There are a few things here and there, like I just mentioned, that just like don't work. Oh, the CGI animals are rough, but part of me is really curious if that came out of laziness or if that was intentional. Now, you could say my whole rationale is I think the CGI animals work best when we're doing the memory scene, because it plays into this like fairy tale fantasy in a way, because like they're meant to be presenting as animals and they're presenting to a child. So in that sequence, I can excuse that they look a little bit cartoonish and not real. In the other sequences, that could have been touched up a bit more. So again, I don't think this movie is perfect, and I'm not even sure any movie that anybody ever makes is all the way perfect here. There are some rough spots to it, but the overall piece is that Steven Spielberg put his heart out there, as he usually does, and it's a plea, a call for what humanity can be again. I think overall this is a response to him in a lot of ways losing faith. I think there's a line in the script where it says like, I don't think you lost your faith in God, you lost your faith in people. I think that's talking about Spielberg. And I think in a lot of ways this is kind of like trying to get to a place where not only can we get that faith in people back, but can that communal experience and could a universal truth unite the human race in a way that it can move beyond the divisions? And wouldn't it be nice if it did? And wouldn't it be nice if it was this universal truth? And there's so much, I think, for me, that it does for me, that it uses empathy as a superpower. That's literally the thing that these alien creatures imbued our main character here with, the ability to give people empathy. And how that's all tied in with this call to action, if you will. Again, that piece itself has caused people to be very one of two minds, shall we say, about it. If you go and read the reaction to it, but I'll tell you this. Look, is it top tier Spielberg? No, but I do feel if we're talking about this decade, I think he's continuing to fire on all cylinders, and I'm very excited for what he's going to continue to do next. I think so far, with West Side Story, Fabelmans, and Disclosure Day, I think it's shaping up to be a far more invigorating decade for him than the 2010s were. At least you can kind of call this a closing chapter, if you will. But I mean, it's hard for me to say what is top tier Spielberg for me, because I love so many of his movies. Like, for me, all the newer ones have so much to say about humanity that I also vibe with so much, that if you ask me, like, Disclosure Day, Fabelmans, West Side Story, The Post, Bridge of Spies, Lincoln, all those movies to me are like so near and dear to me that I'm like, how? And I think most people would not put any of those, aside from maybe Fabelmans, as they're like top tier Spielberg. But you can feel it in the filmmaking that this meant a lot to him, and there's just moments in this that just like they win me over. I'm just like so caught. Like, the last time I saw it, the moment it got to the house, all the way to the end of the film, I was just like feeling so much. And I mean, that it's a Steven Spielberg movie. I am just happy that he continues to make me feel the way that he's always made me feel. And look, for better or for worse, I don't think he is a universal filmmaker anymore, unfortunately. There are just different kinds of styles, and you can maybe argue that people for the entire career have always had things to say about it, and maybe have not always reacted the way that I think we think they always did. But every movie he makes and has made lately has been something quite special, and I was very moved and very touched with this film and what he's trying to say here. And I'm also very happy that there are plenty of other people who feel this way. I think it's okay for films to be divisive. I think it would suck for me personally if like everybody was like, "Oh my God, this thing sucks." So that's just like opening thoughts on where I am with this movie. David.
I thought this was fine. I did like Josh O'Connor's character and Emily Blunt's character, their connection within the movie. I was very much interested in it. And when we finally got the answer to that, I was, rolling with it. I liked the little flashback scene and, everything of their journey up to the end. It caught my attention and all that. So there was that. And then obviously everything else, cinematography, that's always a love for me with Spielberg. He just knows how to use the camera. There's certain sequences where I'm just always going like, "Oh my gosh, look what he's doing here," blah blah. But and then I really liked what he was trying to say with this movie. I think you were mentioning too. It's like it's a call to just take a leap of faith.
You said it better yourself. I think leap of faith.
Yeah, take the leap of faith and trust. I don't know. I just like trust in someone and trust in something at the very least too, and hopefully you can make a connection to it, like how Emily Blunt is doing with everyone else in the world, basically, and all that. And so that story, what he was trying to tell, I really did enjoy. Um, what you said about top tier Spielberg, that's what I told you when we came out of the theater. I was like, I don't know if I would consider this top. I don't think I would consider this top tier Spielberg. To me, top tier, it's all about character and cinematography. And although there was some cool moments in cinematography, I feel like there was something about it where I feel like it could have been the script that certain piece of information just wasn't flowing well.
Okay.
With how whenever he uses the camera, like whenever he uses the camera with certain information, like he knows when to keep the camera in one place and then either cutting it into different directions so we can keep our attention and all that. And the obviously the dialogue is also keeping our attention and all that, but when there's certain piece of information that we need for the plot, he knows how to give that information super fast through the editing, through the cinematography. And it's those bits that I feel like just wasn't flowing that well. When it comes to the action, though, always fun. He knows what he's doing with that. And then character. I did enjoy the characters, but I think you were mentioning like we could have gotten more, especially from Josh O'Connor. Uh, when it came to like the conversation of putting out this information and what that would do with people's faith, I kind of wish Josh O'Connor would have like argued more in his favor, but we just weren't really getting that. And it was what was it, Jane, the girlfriend, who kind of got that answer, but through someone else. I wish I would have gotten it through Josh O'Connor in some way, but it just didn't work out that way.
I will say though, with Josh O'Connor, I think it's a testament to how amazing of an actor he is. That this is just not that impressive because, and it really comes down to how the character is written. There's not much for him to do in comparison to Emily Blunt. It's the real thing, and Josh O'Connor has been consistently amazing in everything else where he's been given more to do. So I do think that is a legitimate issue.
Yeah, but when it came to his character, once he meets with Emily Blunt, that was when it was actually really fun. Like I really did like that there was this lingering like
that all
feeling.
Worked.
Yeah.
I think I enjoyed his character a lot more actually when he met up with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially because like it was almost like this like fated destiny that they were supposed to meet, and like that feeling that he was trying to go for Spielberg. I mean, it worked really well in both of those characters' favor. So yeah, that part of it was fun, but everything else about it, it just wasn't hitting that well in terms of the other characters, especially the villains. The villain was cool. Like I really liked the way he was going about trying to capture them. There was just too much mystery, I guess you could say, behind him, where I'm kind of like, feel like we could have gotten more from you, especially with that scene with him and the guy who
Coleman Domingo, Hugo, basically.
Yeah, Hugo. When they both met up, it was the same thing too. It's like when they both meet, there was like this connection between the two of them. There's clearly history between them and all that, and I kind of wish we would have gotten more of that. But it all just kind of felt abrupt. I don't think that's the right word, but like that's kind of how it was when it all came to an end. But yeah, overall, this is still something that I can rewatch for sure. But
well, do you plan to rewatch it? I think that's the real question because there's a lot of movies coming out, and I know that whenever we sit down and do our end podcast for Spielberg, I don't know when that's going to be, but do you want to even see it again? I think is a good question because if you don't, I feel like that's like it's an aggressively fine for you then.
No, yeah, I definitely want to rewatch it again once we keep going with our Spielberg stuff and all that. I don't know if I'll rewatch it in theaters, just because there's a whole bunch coming out tomorrow. My first showing is at 9 a.m. for The Furious, and then I gotta watch the Death of Robin Hood. So like, there's a lot for me to watch in theaters, sadly. Well, not sadly, but sadly for Spielberg. But I do want to rewatch it for our Spielberg files. for sure.
Yeah, I will say I adore everything in terms of Emily Blunt, and I'm so happy that people are finally giving her due. I'm so surprised the number of reactions that I've seen that people would say, "Who knew Emily Blunt had this in her?" And I'm like, I knew.
Yeah.
I've been saying it for years. She's an incredible performer.
Mhm.
She's a chameleon. She can do anything. And I mean, you tell me if there's ever been a bad Emily Blunt performance. I don't think there ever has been.
Mm-mm.
And I just about have enjoyed every movie she's ever done. So the idea that she would be like, oh my God, who knew? I'm sorry, I did. There were plenty of people that did. And also, this is kind of a tremendous performance. I do love the range that she gives here and what she's allowed to do.
No.
Because even I want to know if she's quite manic. There's a lot to her in the sense of like she's not really sure that she belongs. And so when she's kind of awakened or activated, if you will, and she starts to see these abilities that she's having, the way that she's encountering people and how she's kind of like those abilities are coming to the surface are very funny. And Emily Blunt handles those moments exactly the way that they should have been handled. But then when we get into the stuff later in the middle half of the film, when she's going into the house, I mean, when she meets Daniel, when she's going to the house, that
Mm-hmm.
that all but destroyed me. Like I'm telling you, that made me feel something that it's right up my alley for sure, but it really did like connect with me. Like even so much as having a look on her face when she's looking back at the younger version of herself just ended me legit. And even I loved I'll say it. I know that people are going to have issues with the whole, like, I guess you can blame the script for this. You do you. But I really did vibe with everything the device was doing. As far as how it allowed the bad guy to, like, dive into people and even, like, possess people. That was so cool. And even the way that Emily Blunt was using it, which made for some very entertaining moments for sure. But even kind of like the gotcha moment at the very climax of the film when it's like, okay, well, I can't stop you. Do what you're going to do. The train sequence was very good. I did not even catch the fact that when she was having her panic attack, Josh O'Connor put her hands on a piano. Didn't even catch that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was so funny, though, that when we were watching it together, it was like a dyad in the Force. When what was it? Hugo says to them, like, it's always been the two of you, because what happens is they imbue Emily Blunt's character with the power of empathy, and they imbue Josh O'Connor's character with the power of mathematics, which is literally his mom and his dad, everybody, and how, and this is one of those things where it's like, many years ago, James Lipton put it together in a way Spielberg never even realized it, but in Close Encounters, what is it that the aliens and the humans use to communicate? Music and math.
Mm-hmm.
And Spielberg was so stunned in that clip. And then here he is literally using that again. There's a lot of things in here that just like, if you know your Spielberg, you know where that comes from. Like even the whole like rebuilding of the house to jog or to reawaken or reactivate Emily Blunt. That in and of itself could be like Steven Spielberg's experience making The Fabelmans and what effect it had on him, and maybe even what trauma it had on him to open up that can of worms. You can also see that sequence in Hook when Robin Williams is like going back to the cave and like remembering finally that he is Peter Pan. I mean, the train sequence. How many trains have been in Steven Spielberg films? I think is a better question, and how they've been used. But I mean, just like if you recall in Fabelmans, how like The Greatest Show on Earth and how that traumatized him as a child, and then literally using that in this film to kind of create like this high stakes action sequence. There's a lot of those moments in here that I just genuinely really just so enjoy. And legit, like to me, what also is, and I guess this could also depend how much you're interested in aliens or how much you're interested in what effect aliens could have on people. But like, I was so like in with that last 10 minutes of just like the real and the footage and everything was because this is something that I myself have dreamed of. Because we were mentioning, I think on a Shield recording the other day, it's like, is that on One Media's like channel, is that like a poster behind that says I want to believe in the UFO? In the poster itself, it's like, I've just always had a fascination with like aliens and UFOs and like, what if they're out there? What if they've been here? What do they mean for us? What could they mean for us? If they were able ever to reveal themselves to us, what could it mean for humanity? And I love that he used that as the linchpin for this movie. I do understand, though, that there would be a lot of people who would be like, it ends. And I'm like, wait, what? That's it? I thought the movie we were going to get was all the things that come after the ending of this movie. Cool. Fair, I guess. But I just think it is clearly something that he's kind of been wanting to address his whole life. And I'll tell you, like, I was so in that moment that I forgot I was even watching a movie. Like, it made me feel like, oh my God, they're finally here. What we see is kind of like a hope of what could happen. Could it actually be something that could make people come together? The idea of these images of these non-human biologics being tortured or even dead in these crash sites, could that make a human being feel something for them? Which is also a motif that he's kind of been playing with. I mean, that's the whole thing of E.T., I want to say. I know that in the documentary Spielberg, Peter Coyote, who plays Keys in that movie, kind of put it together himself, because he always said, I wondered what was it about that movie that was so big, that people loved it so much. And in his own words, it's not something Spielberg ever said, but this is what Peter Coyote said. It's like, look, if there are no two people alike on planet Earth, like that alien and Elliot, but if they could come together and feel something for each other and have a connection, then maybe so could the rest of us. And that to me kind of speaks to like an everlasting hope of what the human race could be. And I think that's very clearly what's trying to be communicated through on this movie. But I will tell you though, I'm very curious to see how we think about this movie a year from now or 2 years from now. Because I'm telling you, Fabelman's kind of got a bad rap when it came out. West Side Story, hardly something that anybody cared about it. Post, Bridge of Spies, they came out, they were great, no one cared. But now I'm hearing people, I don't know, those movies are kind of good. And I do think it's interesting that this movie, Disclosure Day, is a little bit more, I think, chaotic and unruly. And I do wonder how people are going to feel about it in the years to come. There's one person, actually, I'll put it up here, Ethan Simi, who ultimately was very positive on this movie. But he said something that was quite bold. And I wonder if this will actually happen. But this is what he says here. I have a feeling that in 10 years, this will be regarded as Spielberg's late-stage masterpiece. There isn't anything like a Spielberg movie, no matter if it's aliens, sharks, or just kids with cameras. Spielberg is able to convert to deep inferiority of human nature better than any working filmmaker today. And Disclosure Day is no different. There are so many Spielberg isms in this movie, both good and bad, but it's a lot to wrap around. Humanity's place within history, life beyond us, how faith and science interact and object to one another, and the continued dilution of childhood dreams and memories. It's all there, and I kind of love it. What doesn't work for me is nearly the entire first act. I love where the movie starts, real, you're in the middle of something bigger than you that has been going on for longer than you can imagine type stuff. Both Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor progressively establish why they're the perfect passengers in the narrative arc, which I eventually handed myself over to even though I'm generally not a Blunt guy. She is quite amazing here. On the other hand, Wyatt Russell felt immensely miscast, and took the train off the tonal tracks every time his mouth opened up. Couple of things right there. I thought Wyatt Russell was fine. Did you have an issue with him? I mean,
Who
do you
was
think
he?
he was? Wyatt Russell was the boyfriend.
Oh yeah, he was fine. I think he just served his purpose as being uh the sane
Yeah,
one in the situation, but then also like just could not handle the situation as it kept going on. So
yeah.
I think you can make an argument that it would have been cool to see him in the rest of the movie. Him and Emily Blunt's character could have just been more connected, but I think that would have been more awkward as
I
soon as
think
she
he was
meets.
fine. I
Yeah,
think he was humorous where he needed to be, and that's all that the
I,
story needed him to
I
be.
think it just
It's
throws
like,
people off because of it's Wyatt Russell. He's like he's getting more noticeable. So to put him in this to and then just leave feels a bit off. If it was just some no-name actor, it would have been like, okay, yeah, the dude just did it out, and then people
okay,
would have moved on
that might
a
be
lot
what it
easier.
is then.
Yeah, for sure. Especially
You mentioned, yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
when I
ahead.
you were yeah.
Because you mentioned to me, and I'm just remembering that you actually I don't know. At first, you told me that you weren't quite sure that it opened where it should have opened, but then you liked it. I don't know, like how it
Uh,
kind of just drops you into the story. How did you feel about that?
no, yeah, basically, yeah, it drops you into the story. We're just supposed to sort of believe the characters when they're meeting, going like, hey, this is bigger than this has been going on for a long time, and just like, no, people need to know. It's like that argument between the two of them, the situation that Josh O'Connor is in, and we're just meant to believe that, like, okay, he's got what he needs, he knows where to go, he's got a safe house, there's a plan, and we're just meant to believe that things might work out in the end, or that um we just believe him in general. And I can understand people kind of being like, oh, be thrown off by it. So there's that. I think there could have been, I mean, I don't know, I really like how people said it or mentioning it. You get thrown into the wrestling thing where the dude's beating up the camera, and then at the end of it, the camera the like that you're looking at is pointing at a different camera and all that. Like we're well, how was it
Wait,
that
and what does Emily Blunt say? Listen.
yeah. But like
So it's
you saw
what
like
I
tweets
was.
about it.
Well, the thing about it is like, first of all, that opening shot is so disorienting. It's like what a wrestler is like literally stomping on the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what I was reading into it, and what others were too, was like when you put what's happening there. First of all, it's a wrestling match, I guess, and a lot of people are having an experience watching that. The wrestler is stomping on the camera, and it's very violent and very typical of what the kind of things that people are into these days, right? But then when you put that against, to me, I think it's supposed to show a contrast in boosting the main idea of the movie, which is empathy and compassion, which is like the movie ends with the camera on the TV studio camera looking at Emily Blunt, and she looking at the camera and saying, listen. Another message of the film, it's like, how about instead of like, it's like, what was it called? What did they say in Wake Up Dead Man? Not this, but this.
Yeah.
Like what the priest was saying to Josh O'Connor there. It's like, I think that's more or less what it was trying to convey with how it begins and how it ends. And also, it's very weird how this movie comes out the same week that the ending is trying to convey about like we can have communal events again. We can have unifying events again. It came out the same week as the NBA finals with the Knicks and all of New York and the world just like rejoicing in it. What's also happening? The World Cup. Oh, and I guess to some extent, other people, MAGA with the UFC thing at the White House. So it's like, to me, it's really curious how all these things are happening around this movie coming out that could be like perceived as unifying things. What did you make of the whole forced die out of it all? You had mentioned to me that you were actually okay with how that turned out because you were kind of like scared how that would go.
No,
by the way, when we say forced die, we mean it was funny because like the connections that Josh O'Connor and Emily Blunt have is very reminiscent of Rey and Ben Solo in Rise of Skywalker. Is what we mean.
No, yeah, like I said, I really like the two of them together. There was this clear, fated destiny between the two of them, and when we get that explanation, I thought it was, pretty interesting, and I like that, you know, I also really like that there wasn't this like actual romantic relationship between the two of them. Like, no, there was just this care
Yeah.
between the two, that they would get through it together. And then I remember now what I said that was my worry. If you remember in Close Encounters, the main guy is married and has kids, and then when he goes through this
Does he?
event,
I'm
yeah,
not sure he knows anymore.
yeah, when he goes through this adventure to like meet the aliens, he does it with this different woman who is just trying to find her kid. But when they get to like the base of the mountain, and he wants to go and get closer to the aliens. He's talking to the woman. She's just like, I mean, my son's not there. I don't want to like just get near it and all that. And when they say goodbye, he kisses her, and I was looking at that like, bro, you have a wife, you have kids. Why are you doing kissing her? That, and like you can see it building up to that moment of them like about to kiss and all that, and
Yeah.
it just throws me off so much. Just take that part away and like
It's funny though,
the
David.
scene.
I've seen some people online say they wish they would have.
Oh, really?
They would have
can
had a
understand too,
romantic
because like
thing.
because like all the signs are there basically. Like I said, it's a fate,
And their chemistry worked very well.
Yeah, it would have worked. But I'm glad that it was just like a friendship thing, and there was just this thing of like, oh my gosh, I remember you, and it was all nice.
Yeah. One of the things I really enjoyed was some of the Steven's a real. You can tell he was really much in the bag for like this kind of stuff. He threw a lot of things in the film, like even the crop circles being like symbols on the device and them forming around O'Connor because more activations are happening. Even the whole like alien abduction thing. So that alien, I believe it's called In Vivo 17, I think. So that's the one that we see in the middle. That he takes both of the kids and he gives them these abilities. It's interesting because some people have been two minds about it. Some people are like, well, isn't that pretty nefarious, like kidnapping children? Okay, that's fair, but they don't actually harm them other than I guess traumatize them. But the whole idea is they set that up because to get to the day, disclosure day, where they can actually reveal themselves to humanity and mankind, how they can, I guess, help if you choose to read it that way. To me, the whole last bit when they wheel him out, I mean, goosebumps. I'm like, I've dreamed of that happening like for like all my life. So it was like, oh shit, him putting, and I'm sure Steven has too. So it's like that to me is like what like really really sold it. And of course the whole ending there. One element to this that we should get to is and one that's been debated back and forth is the matter of how it relates to faith. You mentioned to me that you enjoyed the scenes that they threw in there about faith. There were a lot of people who feel that was not handled very well. How did you think about that?
So the first conversation about it was what bothered me the most because it was Josh O'Connor and what's the character?
Eve Hewson. I believe the character's name is Jane.
No, Josh O'Connor's.
Daniel.
Daniel. Okay. When Daniel and Jane were talking about it, Jane was going like, if you show people like a higher power when they're already like,
literal supreme beings.
Yeah. Where they're already believing in another thing, like that could cause chaos. And Daniel, he doesn't respond to that. And I found that weird because like the second she brought that up, I was like, people believed in the different deities like in the past before, like they'll be fine with believing in something else. But then also too, this isn't a supreme being at all. Like this is just a being wanting to connect with us. So like what the heck is so wrong with that? Like I feel like he could have made an argument for it, but he just didn't. So that kind of bothered me. And then, but I did like the moment with Jane talking to that nun on the phone, where she was just like, if you, for one thing, she was just, what was it? And I can't remember the exact thing of the Bible. Basically, like we were created.
Well,
God's...
she was saying like we're God's supreme creation, and then the nun says on Earth, we're God's supreme creation on Earth, and then she says like, why would He make such a vast universe and save it for only us? Which is always how I have viewed just the state of things. I will say though, do you feel I would have wanted more for him to respond to Jane in that moment. Do you think perhaps the script kind of like proves her correct in a certain sense with some people not like she's correct with her take, but like maybe she has a point, because if you see later in the movie, there's this one person in Hugo's group that legit just like bows down and does the sign of the cross to her.
Mhm.
And then, I mean, Margaret, and then she's like, I will not be anyone's religion. So it's like,
No, I mean, no. Well, I mean, it's not that I didn't believe that they wouldn't see this as a
is that you
supreme
wanted
being.
Josh O'Connor to respond?
Yeah,
and
I
say
just wanted him to
something,
respond.
yeah.
Like I could have been, because, but like, no, yeah, like I was saying, it's not that I can't believe that they wouldn't see this alien as a supreme being. I can definitely believe that they would. It's just that the whole idea that like, oh, this would run in chaos, it's like not really. Like it's just like people will believe what they believe in that, but at the same time, it's like it's just not gonna cause as much chaos as she thinks she is, and all that. She thinks that like it's gonna ruin people's beliefs and all that, and it's like, I mean, if it does, it's not gonna be any different from it did in the past. And then, but then also too, it's like this is either way, this is real. Like I don't know, he could have made any sort of arguments against it, but he just didn't.
Mhm.
So,
But you enjoyed the scene with with Jane and then the sister, I guess, or the
yeah, because she was pushing back on that
Yeah.
idea, which I wish
Right.
it would have gone it from Josh O'Connor.
Right.
And yeah, like I said, I like we're God's, like we're supreme beings on
creation
earth.
on earth.
Yeah. And so I like that bit, and then it just led to the nun talking to Jane about how you didn't really lose faith in God, you lost faith in people, and so like, because that's the whole point of the movie. It's like put your faith in others. So yeah.
Yeah, this is as you can imagine, very, very interesting and polarizing all the same. Yeah,
I
we'll
mean,
see. Well, yeah.
I don't to I don't like some of people's arguments against this movie. There was one video people, or just a couple of videos, people keep pointing out, it's like, why didn't Josh O'Connor just put it on the internet? We know why. If he puts it on the
Are
internet,
you serious?
Yeah.
They can't be that dumb. The movie, it legit says that.
well,
It shows that many times. Like, what do you mean that can't be real?
no, yeah, some people are. It's just we all know
Ooh.
why. Like, it doesn't need to be explained in the movie. We know why. If he puts it on the internet, people will just think it's gonna be a fake or AI or someone messing with others and all that. And especially when it gets spread out to other parts of the internet, to Reddit, Facebook, and all that. It's just not gonna be believable. Whereas if they just put it on an actual news station, yes, people will still maybe find it to be fake, but like there might be some belief to it because it's on an actual news station. And I know some people want to argue that, like, oh yeah, because the news stations today are very reliable. It's like, that doesn't matter. There's still like there's still some level of truth going on within news stations and all that. I know it's very polarizing, but doing it there would have much bigger impact. Like, it doesn't need to explain. It's very clear and all that. And then the other ones too, like you mentioned, the kids being abducted. For one thing, we don't even know if that was just all they did. What I mean is, like, when the aliens gave them their gifts and then kind of left them alone, we find out that the alien got captured. We don't know when after that moment, but like, it got captured. It probably would have tried to come back and like maybe guide them through their abilities, I guess you can say, and all that. So there's that one bit. The other thing too is just like, I don't like how people are exaggerating it so much. It's like, oh my gosh, the alien kidnapped the kids and all that. And it's just like, I feel like you're just making it sound worse than it seemed.
Than
Like,
it
it's just-
actually was. I mean, it was presented. They were fine. In fact, they were more than fine. They chose those two as like the vessels for how to, like, and again, I guess it all comes back to how you read it. Like, do you feel that what the aliens are doing, what their goal is nefarious, I don't believe that's what the film is suggesting. But I guess if you want to read it that way, then I guess it would be pretty bad.
I think it's just people trying to like find any sort of thing to pick at and all that, and it's just like I don't feel like you're being quite genuine with this take, but whatever. Um, some other ones. There was one. I wish I could remember the exact words that they said. I guess you can. I guess the campiness of it all, and like that hopeful nature of it. That's just Spielberg in general, you know. Like
Yeah, it really is.
you
Yeah.
can, like I said, top tier Spielberg. It's all about character and cinematography. And then I already mentioned, gave my thoughts on the cinematography, but when it comes to character, oh no, that's not. I remember what I was gonna say now. I specifically choose cinematography and character because when it comes to the story, um, on any top tier Spielberg movie, there's always gonna be problems with the story itself, or at least the plot when things happen. Like with The Terminal, you know, you like the characters, you think he's a kind man, you love all the other ones because they're all becoming like this big happy family and everything. But when it comes to Tom Hanks' character leaving the airport, there's just some things going on that I'm like, this would never really actually happen in real life. He probably would have been arrested and all that. Like when you really think about it, like none of what happened in the end probably would have happened. And so that's why I don't pick story in top tier Spielberg. Yes, there are some like amazing stories that he's made, Jurassic Park, Jaws, and everything that like it all makes sense. But when you look at some of the other ones, once you get like lower down the list, I guess on your top favorites, there's some where like the plot just kind of goes off the rails, but you don't care because you love the characters and like what it's been setting up from the beginning and all that. And so when people bring up this one, the whole campiness of it, I was telling you before, or no, when we left the movie, those tweets that you were sending to me about people talking about the ending of the movie, it almost made it seem as if Spielberg made this like ending of world peace or something, like the movie ended in world peace, but it's like no, that's far from it. And so I don't know why you guys keep bringing up like all this whole hopefulness and all that. It's like, yes, there's hopefulness, but it's telling you to try to be hopeful. It's not actually like, I don't know, like yeah, it's just he's trying to tell you to please be hopeful, and that's kind of all it is. So
Yeah, one of the funnier takes was Ryan McQuaid from the Awards Watch podcast. He's kind of a tough cookie. Like when he loves movies, like One Battle After Another and The Brutalist, like I love him. And then he also has some brutal takedowns of films like he doesn't like. Like I think one of my favorite reviews of him was from the last year when he eviscerated Wicked for good. You need to go listen to that review. It's hilarious. But he's a tough one, and he said something. He said, "Forgot to mention last night, but Disclosure Day rocks, and I won't be hearing any slander about it." Spielberg is on an incredible late career heater, and this one ranks up there some of the best sci-fi material. So the thing is, some people really, really freaking love it, and some people are like, "This is the piece of shit." Then there are people who are like, I mean, maybe a step below you are, which is like, yeah, I don't really think this is all that good.
yeah.
Or it's like whatever. But like, really, really curious about that one. Here's one. Disclosure Day is a plea for empathy, yes, but it's also a longing for a world where humanity can share in a collective awe in a way that it seems we can't anymore. And nobody is better suited than imagining that than Spielberg. I also saw a funny tweet today about like it was a frame of Emily Blunt and Josh O'Connor trying to climb onto the train, and it was like this but with the Epstein files. Which also weirdly enough, like when this movie is coming out, we're getting a lot more declassified material coming out because the U.S. government is trying to distract from the Epstein files. They don't want to acknowledge that, so they're using UFO files to kind of like, but then no one seems to care literally at all. So it's like, but I do agree with you when you said it's like, I mean, it's pretty self-evident. If you just dump all these files on the internet, they're going to be dismissed. And it kind of shows how powerful like mainstream media unfortunately still is. It's like they can kind of make or break how people feel about somebody. And it's very important to me because I was wondering, why did he give this like no-name anchor at the end of the movie? Why did he give her that moment and not Emily Blunt? And I feel like the more that I think about it, it's because, well, the whole point is this anchor who we've not seen in the whole movie, she's supposed to be just like any anchor you'd watch on TV, and she's watching this for the first time. And the idea that she is having a moment of empathy and that just like having an emotional experience, she can transfer that onto others. Because unfortunately, a lot of people are hard in the sense that they don't allow themselves to feel emphatic about much of anything. And so her being that person to see it for the first time can kind of like do that for a bunch of other people and kind of awaken their empathy, which is also kind of interesting how like some people are kind of critical of like how Emily Blunt was like using empathy in a way of kind of like to placate people. But I didn't read it that way at all. To me, it was like, oh, she's just activating that part of themselves they don't actually use all that often, that they've buried so deep down they don't even recognize it anymore when it comes to the surface. So there is that there as well. And then one of the more like, I guess the one that got a lot of attention over the weekend was I believe it was Cody Derrick's. He tweeted something to the effect that it's very telling that a lot of the people who are having many issues, or I guess a huge issue with the film, ended up coming down to like how you were saying, how you read that ending. And I do think there were quite a number of people that went overboard with how it was kind of letting them kind of like affect how they felt overall about the movie. But yeah, overall, I think that's kind of where we are with Disclosure Day. We know without any more, I guess, to say, of course, the film was filled with wonderful shots and framing and blocking. And I'm curious to see how we feel about it as the year goes by too, because it's one of those where it's like, ooh, it's divisive. But I guess we will also see how it performs at the box office and see how divisive it actually is. I don't think this will be that big of a hit, honestly, just because of the movie that it is. But the fact that it's garnering this much attention should say something, and it should make people at Amblin and at Spielberg headquarters feel okay that they can make one more and then see how that one does. But I mean, like I told you, David, like it's so hard for me to like not love anything Spielberg does, especially when it's like about like a plea and hopefulness for what the human race can do. So that's like that's in a huge way why it touched me so personally. So anyway, that's where we're going to end it here. Next time, we'll bring Peter on to talk about these movies. That should be quite an interesting conversation. And then David and I will continue, as we've been saying, to recap the films of Steven Spielberg. The next movies that we have are going to be Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal, and War of the Worlds, if I'm not mistaken. Those are the next four that we're going to be discussing here on Red Spotlight. Stay under our Red Spotlight for more entertainment and more, and we will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.